welcome to my Asshole Podcast. Let's get into it. Welcome to my Asshole Podcast. Oh boy, it's Sunday and it's a good day. How's it going, Rig 4? What's going on with you?
You know, always a pleasure to be here. Could not wait to get back into the office for today. Today's going to be a great episode, for sure.
Oh yeah, we're going to be going over a lot of stuff today. We're going to be continuing the Nolan Wells things that we were talking about last week. We're going to Andrew Tate back in the news. That dude got arrested for some bullshit. Well, trust me, I got some stuff for that. And then we're going to be talking about David. And the reason we're going to be talking about him is for the simple fact that, like, the girl that he was fucking with, was madly underage. I mean, he knew her from when she was 12 years old to 15 years old. And it's a crazy situation where he did his preliminary hearing this, I believe this week. And so, we're gonna watch a little bit of that. We're gonna watch a creator that actually went there and was talking about it and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that, but we're gonna jump right on into the first video. So we're gonna play this. We're gonna play this video, and then we're also gonna play another video before we kind of give like our takes and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give full perspective to just everything that has come out, I guess, as of this week for the Nolan Wells case and stuff. So we'll do this one, and then we'll get into another video, and then after that, we'll talk about it. All right. So let's hop on into this.
Autopsy results for Nolan Wells have finally been released today, with a mysterious injury to the back of his head and parts of his neck and throat completely missing. The results of the original autopsy by the state were, of course, never handed over, so the family conducted an independent autopsy that was covered by Colin Kaepernick because the state was going to make them pay for it. And the original medical examiner neglected to send in pieces of his neck and throat for the new examiner when Nolan Wells is an alleged drowned victim. So now they are unable to even identify if he was drowned, strangulated, or possibly even hanged. And my question is, when is the tampering with evidence charge coming to the original medical examiner? Coincidence that many of the alleged murderers have family members that are judges and doctors? I think not. And interesting how none of his white friends posted any memorabilia about him, deactivated their social medias, tampered with his phone, and then not a single one of them attended his funeral. All of these white people were supposed to be longtime family friends with the Wells family. But where's that established trust and love for his family now? His mother isn't speaking to those people anymore for a fucking reason, and I trust a mother's instinct. These white families are likely heavily involved in Mississippi's corruption, so if we stop talking about this and look away, they're going to slip this shit right under the fucking rug like that. They tried to dupe us with the first fucking medical examiner, but now millions of eyes are on them, and they can't let this shit slide anymore. If you have any additional information about Nolan Wells or anything that happened that night, please send it to this number. You can also donate to Nolan's family via their GoFundMe. Share this story, keep talking about Nolan Wells, and we will have fucking justice.
All right, cool. So there's that video. All right. And she talked about a lot. So we're going to watch this video. And this is going to bring just a little more perspective on what's going on. Now, the NAACP talks about this as well as a lot of media outlets and stuff. And so their mic is fucking terrible. So just know that it's not our audio. That is their audio. This dude is either swallowing the mic or it's just really bad. So we'll go from there. But yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about this.
What were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Last time we saw him on the videos, he was without a shirt. Somebody saw something. Somebody knows something. Why is Nolan Wells dead?
That question has hung in the air since July 4th, since 18-year-old college football player Nolan Wells vanished from a remote island only to be found days later under circumstances that still don't add up. The independent autopsy results for Nolan Wells are now in, and what they found, I'm going to break it all down with you, with an expert who can tell us what this all really means. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So look, we have all been waiting for answers in this case. The family has been waiting for answers in this case, waiting for something, anything that could tell us what really happened to Nolan Wells on that island. His family has been waiting patiently. The public has been watching. And today, finally, we got something. The independent autopsy results are in. Remember, the family had commissioned that an independent autopsy be conducted. There seems to be this level of perhaps distrust in the investigation from the state ME. We know that they're being represented by attorney Ben Crump, and Ben Crump just stepped up to the mic this morning to tell us what they found. Now, briefly, a lot has happened, okay? A lot's been going on, but most importantly, to give you an update here, Nolan Wells' life was honored this week. There was a massive service. There was hundreds of people. Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy. Tyler Perry covered the costs. And before that service ended, Sharpton made a move that got everyone's attention. A $50,000 reward for information leading to a conviction in Nolan Wells' case. Perry matched it on the spot. $100,000 now. That's the total for whoever knows something that could lead to a potential conviction here. Assuming for the moment, by the way, that a crime was committed. The FBI has stepped in. They're looking into threats that were tied to this case. Tells you how high the temperature has gotten. And all of this is happening with the possibility of a grand jury looming. Look, as far as we know, after a meeting with the DA, Ben Crump said that the DA indicated that after the sheriff's office investigation, they may present this case to a grand jury. No timeline yet, but a possibility as we're awaiting the official results of the autopsy, right? Because I want to be clear, what I'm about to get into is the results, the preliminary findings of the independent autopsy, not the state medical examination's autopsy. We've been tracking every development in this case, and today, Ben Crump made this huge announcement standing at the podium at the NAACP convention with the preliminary findings. We know that Nolan Wells' body was moved to Washington, D.C. Again, the family commissioned this, they ordered this. And these are the findings that provide our first independent look at what happened. Now, before we even got to those findings, Ben Crump laid out why this fight for transparency even exists.
I want to thank you all who have called the call center. I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to thank Mr. Tyler Perry. I want to thank Mr. Terry Owens for putting up the $125,000 reward for anybody out there who have information so we can get to the truth of what happened. I mean, any videos, and we've gotten so many videos, President Johnson, from that day from young people, and we want them to have the courage to come forward with the pictures. What you heard, I know people said there were a lot of disturbances out there. Some believe it involved Nolan. All of those things are important to get to the truth of what happened. And so that's why I thank you all for being here, because this news is as important as any news in the United States of America, finding out why is Nolan Wells dead.
Losing a child, it truly breaks your heart. It is a pain that is just, you can't measure it. Especially someone like Nolan, who brought so much joy and light and life to everyone. You don't find too many genuine people like him, so to lose that light at such a young age under these circumstances has been absolutely difficult, which is why we've gone this route. There's so many people out in the public asking all of these questions, but the only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question. And so it is our hope that our local authorities will do what they need to do, because us having the preliminary autopsy results and hearing nothing from them, it's heartbreaking and it's concerning, which again is why we are here, why we have asked for this help.
So now the family has their independent autopsy results, and here is what that medical examiner, that pathologist found.
Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined. pending investigation. The manner of death, undetermined pending investigation. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation.
So what do you hear? Cause undetermined, manner undetermined, this red discoloration on the back of the head. But this is where it gets interesting. So according to Ben Crumb, he claimed the United Cajun Navy found Nolan fully clothed, face down, even though Crumb pointed out that the last picture we have seen of Nolan wearing the swim trunks with his friends that's been circulated everywhere, he's not fully clothed, right? He's not wearing a shirt. And you have this last video of him, or potentially of him, this newly surfaced TMZ footage recorded at 2:23 p.m. on July 4th, which appears to show a man arguably matching Nolan's description on a boat wearing the same blue swim trunks that he had in that famous photo. Again, shirtless, if that is him. However, this just came out. So the United Cajun Navy took to X and they said, Attorney Crump, we didn't say Nolan was fully clothed when found. He was wearing only swim trunks. Please don't misrepresent our words. Now, this is another issue to try to make sense of what the condition of Nolan's body was. Okay, so I want to make sense of this. I want to try to understand what all of this means. I'm bringing on one of our favorites in this space. This is Dr. Tate Rutherford, Richland County Coroner. So good to see you, Doctor. I knew you were watching this live. We were watching it live. I know you were taking a lot of notes as we were trying to make sense of this. There's a lot of different areas here to go into. I guess I'll just start with the big conclusion from this independent autopsy, and you tell me how limited independent autopsies are. But the fact that it came out that the cause and manner of death are undetermined pending investigation, is that something that surprises you? Or and what do we mean by this? What do we take away from this?
Number one, given the circumstances surrounding this case, I am extremely disappointed that an independent autopsy was not performed from the beginning. Yes, the state has a responsibility to perform the autopsy, but even the county coroner said, I want no parts of it. I'm sending this to the state ME's office. So if they were going to do that, they should have given this family the option from the beginning to have an independent autopsy, because things are missing from this independent autopsy that as a mother, as a community member, don't sit right with me. Number one, if you are going to hold back any parts of the body, I feel as if the independent examiner should have known that from the beginning, and a report of what those findings were should have been sent to him. Yes, it is customary to hold back pieces of the body if you're going to examine them further, but why? What was there that you needed to examine? And why have you not discussed this with the family? Transparency as a public official, especially in the role of coroner, where you are expected to perform an independent autopsy outside of the police's investigation, I feel that the coroner and ME's office has not been transparent and upfront with this family, and that is very concerning to me. Why would you hold back the neck muscles? Why would you hold back? Let me play that portion of the press conference right now.
The anterior inner neck structures were absent, not received with the body. The trachea and the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, and the hyoid bone were not received with the body. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death.
Dr. Rutherford, why would those pieces be removed? And are they being tested? You make a really good point about why that wasn't communicated to Dr. Mitchell, right, the person who was conducting this independent autopsy. But why would those pieces of a body be typically, or I don't know, is it typical to remove them, and for what purpose?
Yes, it is typical to remove them. Whenever an autopsy is performed, we are removing those internal structures so that we can further examine them, not only from a visual standpoint, but from a microscopic standpoint as well. Now, when we look at the neck muscles, we look at what's called the strap muscles. So if you kind of, just to give you kind of an idea, these are your strap muscles, okay? But right here sits your esophagus, sits your trachea, sits your hyoid bone. They specifically mentioned that the hyoid bone was not included in the body when the independent examiner received it. That's a significant point for me because that means that they are checking to see if the strap muscles had hemorrhaging, meaning signs of strangulation. Petechial hemorrhaging is very important, but also bleeding into those muscles. The hyoid bone, examining that bone, being able to remove the soft tissue from it to check for signs of trauma, like a fracture to that bone, is crucial when you're thinking about possible strangulation or someone being choked, hit in the neck area, blunt force trauma. The other thing that's significant for me with this is that they could not determine whether or not intracranial hemorrhage occurred, which again is problematic because there was discoloration to the back of the skull. They noted it. They measured it.
I was going to ask you about that.
Why was that not disclosed? And if there was no underlying fracture, fine, but why not say that? This family should know more than what they know. Even when we get cases like this and we have questions, we still tell the families what little we know and tell them, hey, things could change,
Right.
but here's what we have right now.
So a lot of questions about this. Number one, the fact that those, I hate to say it, those pieces of Nolan's body are missing. Does that mean you can't even determine whether this was an accidental drowning?
Exactly, because I need to know when they received that body at that first examination, was there water in the airway? Was there debris in the airway? What were the contents of his stomach? Were there pills there? Was there alcohol there? Was there food there? That gives me a timeline on when Nolan may have last eaten. What was he drinking? I'm examining the contents of his stomach. How was his body found? Was he found actually in a body of water, truly inside of the water, or was he just on the shoreline? All of these things matter greatly when you are doing a water death, especially.
So if the first examiner, right, removed those body parts, does that suggest that they may have a conclusion, that when the state ME's report comes out with the toxicology findings, they may have a conclusion whether or not there was foul play, whether there was trauma to that region, whether there was drowning, that the fact that they removed those pieces would suggest they may have an answer?
They sent everything else. So obviously they held these pieces of Nolan's body behind to further examine them. Why? And if you weren't going to send the entire body, why? And you need to tell not only the examiner that, you need to tell the family that, you need to tell the attorney that, because that is significant information. This Dr. Roger Mitchell cannot perform a full independent examination if he's missing pieces of the body. Did you do a full skeletal x-ray to know whether or not those bones were broken? I really think the biggest mistake here is that they did not allow this family to go ahead and perform an independent autopsy knowing the circumstances of this case.
But people are going to look at this and say, are they hiding something? They give a body over without, is that a fair conclusion? Or is that, like, again, I want to be careful about this and say, is this something that you've seen before? Is it standard? Is it a lapse in judgment? Is it a mistake? Is it sloppy work? Or is there something that is not, there's a lack of transparency?
Here's what I think. Listening to them respond about the condition of his body and what they believed could have happened to Nolan without even getting to the examination of his body is concerning. How can you assume that there was no foul play? How can you assume that this was an accidental drowning and you have not even completed the autopsy yet? That would have been mistake number one to point out in this case, not only from a perspective of being a parent, but also just as the coroner. I meet with our law enforcement and tell them, hey, please do not release this type of information without talking to me first. Because I don't want the family to think that we're hiding anything from them. I want them to know. And Nolan deserves to have the story of his death told. No matter how harsh it may be, no matter how benign it may be, he deserves to have the truth of his death told accurately.
Sure. This red discoloration on the back of Nolan's head in this tissue area, I believe they call it the focal. You would know better than me. The focal. They call it the focal.
They called it a focal discoloration, meaning that
Yes.
it wasn't a diffuse discoloration, meaning it didn't cover a wide area. It was very specific to that area, so specific, in fact, that they could measure it to determine that it didn't spread anywhere else. So I think that's really important because that could be a point of impact.
Now, could that be from the examination, the first examination, the way the body was placed, or could that be? Because remember when the body was ultimately examined, right? I think it was July 10th, they say the body was examined, unless I think I'm correct about that. But could that be someone hit Nolan? Something happened to him and that mark would still be there, just assuming, or do you think it could be something that happened after he died?
I think it's probably before, especially because there seemed to be the discoloration as it was described. And again, you have someone who is a non-medical professional reading an autopsy report, which I also completely disagree with because it muddies the waters. He really should have had either Dr. Mitchell or an assistant, someone with medical training and knowledge to read this autopsy report, but I digress. The discoloration that they discussed, just want to make sure I'm quoting them correctly and what they stated, said it was a 12 by 8 inch red discoloration overlaying the occipital bone. So I think that's significant because this shows a blow from behind. No matter whether or not it caused intracranial hemorrhage or not, we know that there was no underlying skull fracture associated with it. So the fact that this happened to him, we know that this was a antemortem thing, that this happened before he died, because you don't really bruise after you die. We check for those bruises. We actually have the pathologist cut into those bruises and they look for certain things. Now, again, this body was found later. It was found in an outdoor area, but we don't know if that body had been there the entire time.
Why are you still using bots for your meetings? How else am I going to remember what happened? Just use granola. Okay,
Or did somebody bring it back and drop it off? They say he was fully clothed, but in all the pictures, he doesn't have a shirt on. There's so many questions.
Yeah, what did you make of that? What about the marked decomposition of the body?
Again, very significant. It's so significant because I want to know what decompositional changes there were. Was he bloated? Was he waterlogged? They say he wasn't waterlogged, but again, if you're found face down near a body of water, wet things break down faster. I can't imagine that the shoreline is just dry. There's water there. There's moisture there. So is his face intact? Were there bugs on him? There should have been some examination, even with the forensic entomologist, to say, was bug activity present here? You can look at the bugs to help determine a timeline for the time of death. I feel like so much is missing here. And I think the biggest mistake, Jesse, seriously, is that they should have given this family the option to perform an autopsy on their own before someone else touched the body.
I want to play something else from Ben Crump this morning. Let's take a look.
This pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. Understand, he's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant. With the following questions still outstanding, number one, what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Number two, what was the body position when it was found? Number three, was there water in the airway? Remember he talked about the lungs and the airways, where they filled with water. Number four, is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structure? We got the autopsy without his neck. We got the body without his neck at the time of the second autopsy. Number 5, is there any evidence of any intracranial hemorrhaging? He said that is going to be very significant. Things that he could not observe at autopsy that the initial medical examiner would have been able to observe. Number 6 was the composition of what was the composition of the stomach contents. He talks about that being important because when was he found? How long had he been in the water? How long had it been since his last meal? All those things become relevant factors when you're trying to do a thorough and impartial autopsy. And number 7, what are the toxicology report findings? He said the best classification again for the cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells is undetermined pending investigation.
So they can't rule out foul play. How do the state investigators now respond to this? I'm imagining they're still waiting for toxicology results for their own autopsy, but do they respond to this? How do they respond to this? When do we receive the official autopsy from the state medical examiner's office? What's going to happen next there? I mean, I'm really curious about the law enforcement's response to this.
I think their option is to respond. I think it's the only right thing to do. The fact that they have chosen not to respond, the fact that they've chosen not to be transparent and to share information, it's not just a failure of duty, but it's a betrayal of public trust. The public trusts you to tell the story about how people died, whatever that truth may be. And if they have something, they need to talk with the family. They don't need to have a press conference about it. They don't need to talk to anyone else but that family. And tell the family, hey, I want to share this with you, but I need you guys to not share this until we get all of the reports back. That's a very simple ask. This mother and father want to know what happened to their son. That's the least that they could do is respond and say, this is why we're saying there's no foul play. This is how we've concluded this.
And I'm curious, look, if there really is a divergence between what that medical examination is and what is here, I mean, it's already going to raise a lot of questions. This presser is going to raise a lot of questions. The toxicology findings, how much is that going to help fill in the blanks?
I don't know that it will. If there's nothing there, then it's non-contributory to the cause of death. But what if there is something there? This is a student athlete. This is someone who prided himself on his athletic ability and staying healthy to play football. This was a first love for him. You hear his dad speak so passionately about his son's football career and what he was trying to do. So I can't imagine that this is a kid who's just out here, doing drugs and drinking. And if someone saw him doing those things, then step forward, say something. Because we know as parents that our children don't tell us everything that they do. He's a college kid. Maybe he does do something every now and again, but someone needs to say something. Someone needs to.
I think even, as we talked about, having that video come out that could potentially be Nolan, that's a piece of the puzzle, right? More video.
All right. So that's pretty much the end of that video. And then I know you had sent something in, but one more thing. Now, they talked a lot about like the withholding of information, of why the autopsy got, pathologists would hold things back. I went ahead and looked that up just to see why it is they would do something like that. And to see if it could be foul play or anything like that, or, whatever it could be. Oops. Wait, hold on. Why are you doing this? There you go. So, as they mentioned in the video, additional testing is needed. Certain organs, especially the brain, heart, or portions of other organs, may be retained for microscopic examination. Toxicology, sorry, I'm very bad at reading. Specialists with these tests can take weeks or even months. Or what I personally think it is that the investigation is ongoing. So the death, if the death is suspicious or potentially criminal, investigators and the medical examiner may limit what they publicly disclose to the family to avoid compromising the investigation. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're withholding information improperly. So, sometimes just because they're withholding information doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it improperly or they're doing it because they're hiding something. It could be a thing where the investigation is ongoing, so they want to kind of make sure that nothing gets tampered with during that. Evidence preservation kind of goes with 2 as well. In a potential homicide or other criminal case, tissue samples, organs, bullets, trace evidence, or other specimens may be retained because they can be needed later in court for additional forensics testing. So again, the parts of the throat, the back of the neck, the things that the independent guy didn't get, those could be things that the prosecution are going to use in court, and that's the reason why they need it. And then you also just have office policies and state laws. So different jurisdictions have different rules about notifying families when organs or tissues are retained and when they must be returned, if they are returned at all. Some offices routinely retain small tissue samples permanently as a part of the case record. So that was something I wanted to look up because I know that was a big thing in both videos where people didn't really know, like, is it foul play on their end? Are they hiding stuff? What's going on? So I just wanted to look that up to kind of give you guys perspective on what it is that could be going on just with that side of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I sent in this may be a little controversial because X has crazy videos, but the idea is when you have something that's clear cut and dry, you get to see, you'll see it unfold pretty quickly, and then a lot of answers will be answered relatively quickly, right? Where you can see in the video that I sent in, things are pretty clear cut and dry. The idea is if there's any foul play or anything suspicious about the death that is supposed to be considered an accident, it will result in a delay of, it shouldn't result in a delay of information about, either gathered from an autopsy or about the days of the event or whatever the case may be, right? Is it safe to play or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we'll pull it up right now. It's just like a quick kind of apples to apples example, and then we'll get back into the Nolan Wells.
Okay. Let's see. I do actually remember this case. I remember seeing this case. He actually got convicted for murder. Oh, shit.
Yep, and that's again, when it's clear cut and dry, the gentleman in the white tried to claim self-defense, right? He wanted to take a lesser plea by claiming self-defense. In the video, I may not be a lawyer, but I don't think that was self-defense, right?
Oh, 100%.
They fucking ran into each other. He fell back, hit his head. In a clear fit of anger, he was like, I'm throwing you in the water, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of there being video evidence, solid video evidence, when an autopsy was done on the man, they very clearly knew that he had hit his head before he fell in the water, before he was in water, right? Meaning that there was some type of debacle, whatever the fuck, beforehand. You know what I mean? So, again, if there was no video evidence, there would have had to have been more of an investigation that delayed it. However, the idea is with the testimonies, with a very short investigation, it still would have came out that this was probably not self-defense. An altercation happened. He ended up in the water, right?
Yeah,
and it's the same thing here with Nolan. People are quick to say, like, oh, it's just an accident, yada, yada, yada. Again, I don't give a fuck about race at all. What I give a fuck about is the idea that they were like, it's an accident. You guys didn't accept that? Damn it, dude. Yeah, well, we're just not going to say anything else.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, if it's truly an accident, right? Accidents happen all the time. Unless you actually contribute to an accident, And again, this is all speculation, assumption. You wouldn't just be hiding away like, oh shit, you know, like even though it was an accident, I'm gonna hide away, delete my social medias, or you know, whatever, right? Not go out to public, not go to the funeral, whatever the case may be, right? The idea is it's too, in my opinion, too suspicious of a accident to really claim it as like, oh yeah, this just seems like an honest accident that happened. Am I saying that there was foul play? I don't even know that, right?
Yeah, because we don't have any proof saying that, you know.
The idea that what I do know is the delays in information being released means that there's something more suspicious. And again, it brings me back to the idea that those parents have put onto their kids bad ideals, as well as those kids probably had bad ideals engraved into them from whatever other type of external social environment that they exposed themselves to, and it cost a kid their life, right? I didn't realize Nolan was 18, so that in my eyes plays a little bit of a different factor as well, because he's legally an adult, and at that age, I'm thinking that they're like 14, 15, whatever, right? That's a little bit different than being 18 years old or closer to 20, right? There's no scenario in my mind that an 18-year-old, almost 20-year-old has an accident and there's this much confusion in it, right? That's just my take on everything. And the idea here that even with the initial autopsy being, you know, further investigated or whatever, there was just a lot of lack of transparency that I would have liked, especially from the family that was involved on the other boys' end, where they were deleting their social medias, not responding, didn't tell the mom. Like, the mom had to call them and be like, yo, where the fuck is my kid at, dude? And they were like, yeah, he just decided to stay. You know, it's stuff like that in my heart that I really focus on, is like, we need to just do better as, because I'm a parent, where technically anyone could be a influential parental figure, right? But the idea is you want to be a better non-lazy human being and looking out for the accountability of, even if it is, you know, it does come back that it's an accident, the accountability of accidents happen or things transpire. We need to be transparent so everyone knows what the fuck's going on, right?
Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing is the reason why, you know, I showed such a long video is because I'm tired of people coming online and pretending that they're experts and knowing what the fuck is going on. Like, I showed that first video just to show you kind of how retarded she was, and it's ridiculous to me that she sat there and looked at it like, oh yeah, the throat was all of a sudden missing. Yeah, this is like, dude, you take this piece of information and you go so wild with it. And there's so many people, it's not just her. There's so many people that are doing this, where they're kind of taking like small bits of information and blowing it up into this big thing. And it's like, I get it. You're trying to have awareness and you're trying to do that, but don't do it with misinformation. Don't do it with misinformation. Look things up, do your research, and find people who know what they're talking about on these situations and let them kind of teach you. And that's why for me, like, I wanted an actual person, you know, who was interviewed, an actual person who does this, who understands it, all that kind of stuff. I wanted them to kind of give their take, because even she admitted that the throat being missing and them keeping these pieces is a normal thing. Like, this is a very normal thing for them to continue to test, for them to continue to do that. Obviously, I digged a little further and did a little more research on the reasons why they might keep that and why they might hold off information and why they do these things. Because again, we don't know. We're not law enforcement. We're not pathologists. We're not coroners. We're not these things. And I hate when people go online and pretend that they are these things and like, oh, I know that this is what it was, and I know that they're doing this, and you guys should just believe me. And I love that they were flaming her in her comments, because it's ridiculous to me. The only autopsy that has come out is the independent one. We do not have the results of the state autopsy. And my thing is I'm waiting for the state autopsy. I want to see what the state found. I want to see, because obviously, you know, you have to understand that state autopsies, they're able to go a little further only because they do have technology's tools and ability to do it. Just because they're able to have a lot more experts on hand. They're able to have a lot more eyes on this. They're able to have just a lot more information, as well as more skilled hands, more skilled people that have done this and dealt with it. You guys are going to see a lot more of that when we talk about the David case, because they deal with the autopsy as well. And you're going to hear an expert talk about the autopsy that was done on Celeste, where the defense tries to kind of discredit the pathologist in that case, and he's like, bitch, I've done over like 2,500 of these motherfucking things. Like, you don't think I don't know what I'm talking about? And so again, that's one of those things where it's just like, I get how this case looks, and I agree with you with the whole, like, this is not just, oh, it's an accident, like everybody should just believe that. Like, no, because personally I think it was manslaughter. I personally think that this was something, because we talked about it last week. We talked about the phone GPS and the boat's location and how the boat pretty much got from Horn Island back to the shore and everything. We found out that the boat was sinking at the time. There was a phone call that was made to the dock towing to kind of get the boat towed back to the shore, and then the boat went there. So personally, I think it was a situation where, again, this was something where the boat, was sinking. Nobody's just going to be calm, hunky-dory on a sinking boat. You're going to have tussles and arguments and this and that, and they might have got into a tussle, hit him in the back of the head, he fell into the water, you know what I mean, and they thought he was dead. And when in reality, he was just knocked out since they didn't do anything. Dude drowned. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what I think. I'm not saying that that's the truth. I'm just saying that that's what seems to be the most likely. This was a manslaughter thing. That's the reason why they deleted their social media. They didn't want to talk to anybody. They didn't tell the parents. They didn't do all these things because of the simple fact that, dude, they looked at it like, fuck, we knew we screwed up. So there's just so much that's coming out. And my thing is I look at it like, let's focus on the facts, the circumstances first, and kind of be non-biased about it. Because again, like you said, those people that are just like, it was an accident, you guys are absolutely stupid, fucking stupid. But then we have it on the other side where they're just like, oh yeah, those white boys fucking killed him, they slaughtered him, they hung him. Like, what? That's crazy. Hold up, where are you getting this proof? Where are you getting the proof that this happened? That there was any strangulation happened, that there was any hanging that happened, there was any of this. Like, if the boys were KKK or something, like, what the fuck are we talking about? So again, I just don't like the fact that people are throwing speculations like they're facts. That pisses me off more than anything. And that's why I'm even talking about this further, is because there's so many people who are throwing accusations and reporting on them like they're facts. It just is crazy to me. But
yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Yeah, as far as the first liberal chick in the beginning, I think hanging is definitely a stretch. I think if there was like a hanging of something, they probably would have fucking figured that out a lot quicker.
Oh, 100%.
But, the fact that they can't rule out strangulation, that makes sense, especially when, we saw it, right? The reason that they're examining more pieces is because they need to figure out what exactly happened. So, to me, that does suggest that there was damage to the throat and to the back of the neck. So, that being said, is like, all right, well, if they know there's probably something more to look at, then I don't know if it's necessarily manslaughter. I don't know what exactly defines manslaughter, but the idea is like an accident leading to a neglect of, saving one's life. I don't know if that classifies as manslaughter, or I think that actually counts as a type of murder, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, manslaughter is pretty much just the unpremeditation of the ending of somebody's life. So if you get into a car accident and say you were of right sound and mind, you ran into somebody and they died in their car, that's considered manslaughter. You didn't plan to kill that person. It wasn't premeditated. It was a situation where there was a happenstance, an accident, something happened that led to that person's death that was not planned, preordained, or premeditated in any way.
But even crimes of passion fall under not manslaughter, but a form of murder, right? Because
there's intent.
Whoa.
That's the reason why it becomes murder, is because it's now intent.
Yeah, but you said no premeditated like instance, right? That's no like prior like no meditation on it, no thought behind it, right? Still falls in that heat of passion. So there could be
no, because premeditation is up until the death. So if I'm in a heat of passion and I decide to grab a knife and I'm planning to stab you with it, that is now premeditation. Like even if it's seconds before the death, it is premeditation at that point. It does go from manslaughter. Now, if it was a thing where, I wasn't meaning to, say I threw the knife at you or whatever, like that could fall under premeditation, but at the same time, it could fall under manslaughter. You know what I mean? But obviously, there's still premeditation within that. It's up until the death. So
when you say up until the death, you mean like a killing blow or?
Up until the loss of life. So whatever that may be, either a killing blow, the last breath is taken until loss of life. Premeditation goes up until then. Because if it, again, like the car accident incident I told you, if I ran into somebody and I was of right sound of mind, I'm not inebriated, I'm not, I didn't know this person, anything like that, and they died, then obviously that's manslaughter, because I didn't premeditate anything all the way up until the death. But again, if we're in a heat of passion and I decide to grab a weapon, knife, gun, whatever it is, now I am premeditating your death, because I am planning to use whatever weapon it is that I grabbed, or even if it's my fist, and to end your life. You are now showing intent.
So in reality, an altercation could still be considered premeditated, right?
Like a fight, yes.
Yeah.
So if we were fighting on the side of the road and I say, hey, fuck you, Rigga, da 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 da, and you're like, fuck you too, you know what I mean? And I then punch you, and we get into a fight and I kill you, that is considered premeditated murder. Why? Because we went from a verbal altercation, I made it physical and killed you. That is premeditation. I premeditated your murder by escalating it from a verbal to a physical confrontation. That's no longer manslaughter. If you kill me, it's manslaughter. Why? Because you're defending yourself. You didn't mean to kill me. You were defending yourself. But for me, as the one who is the aggressor in the situation, I murdered you to where you manslaughtered.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How what we're getting at with relations to Nolan is, there's probably, like he said, some type of debacle or chaos that erupts from the idea of like the boat sinking. Mm-hmm. And I could imagine what you're getting at with the idea of like, they kind of were like, dude, the boat's sinking. What the fuck do we do? Why'd you drag me out here? Yada, yada. They fight. He falls in the water. However, I still would feel like anything that resulted from that is probably murder, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, we don't know if this is true, but we're kind of just speculating on it. We're just kind of creating some creative talk, but again, that's what I think it is,
especially with the idea of like there may be damage to the throat as well as the back of the head.
Exactly.
This is in my eyes leaning towards murder, not necessarily like murder in the first degree where they're like, I wanted to kill this guy, right?
Okay.
But whatever, I know there's different degrees that may result from like crime of passion or whatever the fucking case may be. So it's just kind of sad that this kind of stuff happened. And, we have these kids whose lives are kind of now being affected, where whether it was one or all three of them or whatever right now, like all three of the other boys that aren't Nolan, they all now have to face, scrutiny, possibly legal action, stuff like that. And, again, it's just crazy that this kind of stuff happened and no one really just came through and like, hey, like it'd be different if one of them was like, hey, you know what, like a fight, took out. We didn't want to say anything because we were scared. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're still
yeah.
young enough to where it's like,
Yeah.
dude, that's valid, but at least you had the balls to come out and say some shit. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree with you 100% on the whole. They're 18 years old. They're adults. They should have took responsibility. But it's like you can also play at the fact that, bro, they were young. I guarantee you they took this boat without their parents knowing. They looked like I look. This is how I think the full timeline went. You can disagree with me all you guys want. I want to know that you guys' timeline and maybe your timeline too. This is my timeline. I think there was actually 4 white boys. There was 4 white boys and there was Nolan. I think these boys were all hanging out, chilling, doing their thing, and they were like, yo, bro, how about we take my parents' boat, we go out to Horn Island, we go kick it, do the thing, and then we get back. We should be back before my parents even know that the boat is gone. And to a kid, you're like, yo, that sounds lit. Like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Da-da-da-da. They take the boat out to Horn Island. They have a good time. They're doing their thing, yada, yada, whatever. They look at it like, oh, shit, we got to get the fuck up out of here, bro. So then they're on their way back. But they notice the boat is sinking. They're like, oh, shit, bro. Oh, what the fuck is going on, bro? If this boat sinks, I'm dead, bro. My parents are going to kill me, man. And Nolan's freaking out. He's like, I shouldn't have fucking did this, bro. Like, my parents are going to absolutely fucking kill me, bro. They're like, calm down, bro. Calm down. He's like, no, I can't fucking calm down. The boat is sinking, nigga. What are we going to do? And so then it caused some altercation. You know what I mean? They were probably trying to choke him out or something to, like, calm him down or whatever. And, you know, something caused him to either choked him out, he hit his head on maybe the awning of the boat or something, he fell in the water. They're like, holy fuck, dude, he's dead. Dude, he's fucking dead. And they're like, bro, let's just get the fuck out of here. Let's just get the fuck out of here. They make the call, the towboat comes, they get towed, you know what I mean? They go in, and then they're all in the house freaking the fuck out. Like, bro, he fucking died. They're like, bro, I know. What the fuck are we gonna do? Like, I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. It's like, dude, we're just gonna fucking not say anything. Like, we're just gonna, you know, let it kind of just blow over, whatever. Like just don't say nothing. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of what happened. Just because I know if I was in that situation, I'm 18 years old, and I knew I was doing some fuck shit I shouldn't have been doing. Yeah, I just can see that. They're kids. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, bro. They look at it like, you know, this is a high stress situation. They're not gonna make the best decisions. And so that's personally what I think happened. Again, that's not, you know, that's just going off of the facts that are given, that what we have so far. That's just what I think. Obviously, I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you think. Timeline, give it from...
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell because I didn't invest enough of my brain power into this, right? So my timeline, though, is... I don't know if they necessarily took their parents' boat without permission.
Okay.
To me, like, I don't, especially if they're 18, I don't think that they would take their parents' boat without permission. They probably were like, Mom, dude, like, let me take the boat out for a little bit. And then Mom was like, okay, just be safe. Took the keys. They went out there.
Okay.
I could definitely see what you're talking about, of like the idea of like they went out, the boat started sinking, because again, Nolan is a known athlete, right? Granted, the idea is you may not know how to swim, but with the idea of like, you know, him freaking, what I'm getting at is the idea is if the boat started sinking, there's not really a reason to freak out. You can just swim the fucking shore, right? Mm-hmm. They weren't incredibly far where, even if they were, right, the idea is still they were around enough body of or land mass to probably make it back to the island or whatever, right? Clearly it wasn't sinking fast enough because they could make a phone call and get towed, you know? So it's kind of hard to understand if they actually freaked out about the boat sinking, but I can see teenagers getting pissed at each other because they're blowing shit out of proportion, right? Yeah. The idea of the boat starts sinking or they have mechanical problems or whatever, and for whatever reason, Nolan gets fucking either picked on or he starts getting pissed about, like, dude, I don't want to be fucking stuck out here or whatever the case may be. And there's that altercation where, in my mind, I think as a teenager, it's a little bit more likely in my brain, if you're going to leave someone out there to die, it's not you guys get in an altercation, you're like, fuck, he's dead, I don't know what to do, leave. It's more like, fuck that asshole, dude, he died, idiot, and then they drive off, you know what I mean? So and then again, you know, like the lady said, I don't really necessarily know if it plays a factor, but it could make sense if it's like, hey, you get back home and like, yeah, dude, we fucking left Nolan out there, and it's like, okay, well, don't say anything, you know, let me talk to my fucking lawyer best friend or judge best friend and see what the fuck we need to do, right?
Yeah.
And then they got the advice of like, deactivate your social medias, don't say anything, don't go anywhere, whatever the case may be, right? Because that seems like very educated, very planned out legal defense, right? Legal protection for yourself, right? Because you know, ignorant people, as soon as some shit happens, they get on Facebook Live and they're like, yeah, I just caught a fucking body, dude. Like, you fucking idiot, dude. Like, the first thing they do is they open their fucking mouth, dude.
Yeah. Hey, look at this dead dude.
Yeah.
Yo, crazy.
So to me, it just seems more like they had more awareness in the situation than people may be trying to play out, you know what I mean? Because if it's truly an accident, you should be able to come out and be like, this was an accident. Okay, it may not look good, but like, you know, all is forgiven because accidents do happen. Or be careful next time or something. Yeah. But a true ill intent where, in my mind, they, like you said, one dude may have came up behind, started choking him. They started like, you know, whatever, they were like, yo, dude, like, lay off Nolan, and then they fucking threw him back. He hit his head, fell in the water, and they're like, fucking asshole, and then drove off without him. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You know, it's hard to tell what necessarily took place, but in my mind, it's definitely, I guess, call it cynical if you want, more with ill intent versus than with accidental intent.
Well, see, you're not wrong in thinking that way because, dude, that very well could have happened. Yeah. Like, obviously, I'm playing on the side of maybe the kids were just freaking out. Holy shit, dude's dead. Da da da. But that very well could happen. They very well could just be like, bro, fucking idiot, man. Like, get the fuck off me. Because when you get into an altercation with somebody, you don't just separate in your homies again. Yeah. You guys are kind of a little mad at each other for a little bit. Like, fuck you, dude. And fuck you too, bro. So it very well could have been that. Yeah. You know, this could have been, as you would say, like a crime of passion kind of thing where it's more like crime of passion doesn't necessarily have to be between a relationship couple. Right. This can be between friends. You know, like if we get into an altercation and we're mad and, you know, we fist fight each other and stuff like that, that is considered crime of passion. It just is. And so I can understand why you would say that and bring that perspective. I'm glad that you even did bring that perspective, if I'm being honest with you. So
because it's like the X video we saw where it's like they probably were like those two got in a minor altercation. Dude fell back, hit his head, and he was still pissed off and like, I didn't feel like I got enough out of it, so he threw him in the water.
I was like, fuck you, dude. Yeah. Instead of like, oh shit, let me call the police. Yeah. So you know, I mean, that good point. Good point. Hey, you guys, let us know what you think, man. With all the information that's come out, again, do your fucking research. Stop listening to these feminists on fucking Instagram, bro, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. All right. I wanted to show her video just to show how stupid she is. And when you actually do your actual research, a lot of times it ain't as crazy as they're trying to make it out to be. And I discredit her after the video that we reacted to last week because of the fact that, for one, I debunked a lot of the bullshit that she said very quickly. And then two, she tried to make it into this radicalization of something. And I'm just like, bro, that's crazy as fuck. Like, just the fact that you're telling me, oh, let's be radicalized and let's do this. I already knew, like, you're on some bullshit, bro. That's why I discredited her immediately. But I know, you know what I mean? You wanted to show her video, so I was like, to the respect of the rig, I'll show the video, but I'm gonna do my own research, and we're gonna actually get it from the experts. We're gonna actually get it from actual sources on why these things are happening, what they're actually looking for as a pathologist, coroner, and oncologist. Like I rather these people tell me what's going on, because like I said, I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not a pathologist or an oncologist or a coroner or none of that shit. I don't know any of that, so I'm gonna learn from the experts, and I think you guys should too. Do your research. All right. Okay. Did you have anything else on the Nolan Wells before we hop into Andrew Tate?
No, we'll get into Andrew.
Okay. So Andrew Tate's been getting some scrutiny, man. First off, how do you feel about the whole Andrew Tate bullshit that's going on? Before we showed some videos,
we Ben knew what kind of dude he was. You know, a lot of this back and forth of like, oh well, you know, how can you guys like him, or how do you people like him, or how does anyone like him? You know, he's terrible, he's this, he's that, he's whatever, right? We all knew how he was, right? Whether you believe that the allegations or you don't get that kind of stigma by not dabbling in that frequency at all, right? So for me, it just jumped really as no surprise, right? The reason I follow Andrew Tate, and I don't follow him on social media, but like the reason I have allowed his words to be in my world is he does say some pretty important things sometimes, right? He has very trying to think of the word, very inspirational, I guess, if you will, words to young entrepreneurs, right? The idea that you know, as fucked up as he is, he does say things along the lines of, you know, if you whatever you choose to believe, and this is something I believe, whatever you choose to believe in life is going to be your reality, right? And again, it brings back to that perception is reality phrase that I don't like, because it keeps people in delusions. But the way our Andrew Tate articulates that is what had drew me to him initially, right? How he treats women, how he treats people. Yeah, I mean, everyone's got incongruencies with how they operate, you know what I mean? So you can't, I can't say that I'm surprised or that I really even give a shit about what he's been alleged or convicted of or not convicted of or charged with or whatever, because at the end of the day, right, like, Andrew Tate is his own dude, right? What he does not really affect me. What he says does not affect me unless I let it. So at the end of the day, okay. I really don't give a shit, you know, if he goes to jail or if he doesn't. Cool. He did some fucking podcast shit, and I don't know if you're gonna play the clip where he was like, yeah, dude, I might be at the end of my life or some shit like that, where I'm like, you're so fucking dramatic, dude. Just shut the fuck up and take what you're getting, dude.
I mean, my thing is I don't think he did any of the bullshit that they're saying that he did. I'm going to say that now. I really don't. Because the thing is if he actually did a lot of the shit that they said they did, and I'm going to show you guys a video of something that was alleged, and the girl that he is doing this to speaks out about it, and she spoke about it multiple times. And then there's multiple women who were tried to be coerced into claiming that they were raped by him and they were this and that by him, and they all say no. And I have video evidence of that, and we're going to show some clips of that stuff too. But I just don't think, I think this is a bunch of just Me Too bullshit, where it is women that are just trying to get money out of them. It is, you know, there's so many eyes on them. They're like, look, I get it. He's like the Matrix attack and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I do feel there's maybe some political stuff in there. The reason being is because he's trying to be the prime minister of the UK. So again, you know, I can see there being political opponents trying to use their money, power, influence to get these women to come forth and try to create a case against him and this and that. And look, that's why the reason I'm even like reporting on this, like, look, if I'm being honest with you, I don't really care too much about Andrew Tate. I don't listen to him. I don't even listen to his words. I look at it like he understands masculinity, and that masculinity needs to come back, and that men need to be men and women need to be women. And that's really the only thing that I take from his message. Like, yes, that's what it is. All the other stuff is kind of arbitrary bullshit. He's just speaking out of his ass, and I just don't care for. But the thing is I'm only speaking about this because I know that there has been such a rise of bullshit where women are coming out with false allegations, trying to use this whole idea of Me Too to say, oh, this guy of high status raped me. Oh, this guy, I rescinded my consent, even though, you know, I sucked his dick in the car, or I had sex with him in the hotel, or I did this, I did that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, to me, it's just ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, but I'm going to play, you know, a video of him talking kind of about the cases and all this stuff. And then I'm going to show you guys a video of, I guess, what he's alleged to, you know, being arrested for, some women speaking out about it and stuff like that. So we're going to hop right on into the videos. So we're going to start with this one.
In 2012, a girl got very drunk in my apartment. I've said this publicly before. She drank too much alcohol and threw up everywhere. I then kicked her out of the house and said, "Get out, you made a mess and you've been sick everywhere." She then said, "You owe me money." She started texting me, threatening me, saying if I don't give her £5,000, that she will go to the police and ruin your life. I saved all the text messages. from this liar. I was then arrested by the British police and thrown in jail on this girl's lies. And the CPS took her phone and found her not only texting me and threatening me and trying to extort me for money, but also planning with her friend how to lie to the police so that we will go to jail. The CPS then threw this case away. Case closed, no further action, innocent men, done. Then, this Matrix attack happens in Romania, and this girl thinks, I can get money. So she sends a little dork. She hired her lawyer, who's a DNG. He's about this tall. And he runs up to my gate and says, my clients want 100,000 pounds. Can you give us money and then we'll leave you alone? So I'm not giving you money. It was $5,000. Now it's $100,000. I didn't do anything to you. Go away. So then he's run back to UK and convinced the UK, because we're going to win this case, to turn a case which was closed, which then went into a civil case where they were begging me for money, into criminal charges in an attempt to extradite / remand us in perma jail from an event that I was already cleared of any wrongdoing back in 2012. They reopened it to try and put us in jail because they had nothing else.
Alright. So there's that one. And we're gonna...
We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever. Our case was dismissed on the 19th of December in Romania under the Biden administration. And our prosecutor recently decided, because we have no active indictment in court, to let us go and return. This is a democratic society. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, as my brother and I are. And I think it's extremely important that we stop allowing media spin, wrap-up smears, lies, or carefully constructed narratives from George Soros-funded operations trying to destroy the reputations of good people who have no intention to do anything other than follow the law.
Andrew, what about President Trump?
Will you return to Romania?
All right, then he leaves after that. Okay, so and then he talked about the 2012 thing, and so this is pretty much like a video of. It's a different girl, not the girl that was throwing up and all that kind of stuff, but it was a different girl that he was dating at the time, and there were charges about this. Now, the girl that is in the video, she's not the one that brought the like charges and everything across. It was a girl that was working with her in the cam business. So, all right, so we're gonna play this.
Let me look here. Say what you.
I say listen. Did I say listen to you? Did I say it?
No.
Did I say it? Look at the camera. This is what happens, you don't listen. Look at the camera. Why are you getting hit? Why are you getting beaten?
Alright. So, that looks bad, right? But here's the girl of the video, or the girl that was in the video.
And I'm pretty sure you know that Andrew Tate has been arrested for human trafficking and a rape, which is absolutely absurd, simply for the reasons that it's absolutely false. I have lived with Andrew for years and years, and he would never do anything like this. I've already had to make some videos regarding his innocence when it came to him being called a woman beater for a video that got leaked of us two having a little bit of a rough role play. I had to make a video clarifying, 2 videos in fact, clarifying that he is innocent. But here I am again. He is not a human trafficker. He would never rape anybody, and he would certainly never ever human traffic anyone either, including his brother. I am just so shocked, and I'm so fed up with all of these lies. It's so false that it's upsetting. Even though we're no longer together, it upsets me because I know the person I have lived with. I know who he is, and he is neither of those things, and he does not deserve any of this coming his way. But I'm pretty sure.
All right, so that, and then I believe it's this video, or actually no, it's this one. I'm sorry.
First things first, I've never actually been a victim of anything, and I've said it over 15 times to the police, but my statements keep getting thrown away.
He's such a nice man, he's very generous. He's always been respectful of me and others around him.
He would never do anything like this. He is innocent, but here I am again. He is not a human.
I was listed as a victim, and the court wants me to claim that I am a victim, even though I told them more than once that I am not one. Kristen and Andrew were always very kind to me.
First Everything's
All right. So, I mean, I don't think he did it. Again, there's just really no evidence showing that. All the things that he has claimed of doing, it either got thrown out, they tried to coerce women into making it true and all that. Like, so I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, again, for me, it really doesn't make a difference. You know, whether he actually did anything, didn't. What I will say is I'm a little less blind to the idea that he probably did some shit and then was like, you know what, because women are delusional anyways. He was like, you know what, dude, here's either a large sum of money or whatever the fuck. You know, make up some bullshit. I'm innocent, right? And then they got on here and like, yeah, dude, like, yeah, he's definitely innocent. You know, nothing wrong. Because to say that like that was like a role play or whatever, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. You know, it's hard to say. But at the end of the day, I'm not oblivious to, especially what's been taking place in our country, the idea that things happen and get covered up really well, and then people move on and forget. So I really, in my mind, don't give a shit about any of what Andrew Tate is going through. You know, it's one of those things where you get your comeuppance at the end of the day. So if you are doing all this shit, you know, you're probably going to get your comeuppance in some way, form, or fashion. If not, then, you know, you have the proof right there. If nothing was truly taking place and those women are telling the truth, and, you know, I feel like it's pretty cut and dry with what's being released. So for me, it's, again, I take the good parts that come from pretty much anyone, and the other parts I just, you know, I don't agree with, and I just move on, because at the end of the day, Andrew Tate, again, like you said, he's got some really good ideals about masculinity and men being men, women being women, and you know, on the other end of the spectrum, I don't think he has. I'm not opposed to the idea that he has vices that people probably don't agree with, you know. So.
Okay, I mean, you don't think that this is something important to talk about just on the fact that a lot of successful men are targeted by women in this whole Me Too movement of, oh, I'm going to say he raped me even though the sex was consensual and all this stuff just so I can get money out of it, and, you know, push this stupid fake narrative of, yeah, all girls, we can do this. We can just, you know, have sex with men, pull back consent, and then take them to court and make them out to be this villain, this bad guy, this horrible this and that. Like, you don't think that that's important to talk about? Regardless of Andrew Tate, regardless of that, like, you don't think that this is a good example of, like, hey, here's a dude that has been dealing with this bullshit since 2012, mind you. Since 2012, he's been dealing with this bullshit. And they still got nothing on him. And I still think they don't have nothing on him. But it's just the fact that it's like they keep going after these guys, and it doesn't have to even just be him. It's just successful guys in general. Like, you don't think that's something that's important to talk about?
Well, I think that women being held accountable is always going to be important, right? The idea there is, like, I don't necessarily care that Andrew Tate is going through this, but to the point of holding women accountable for what they do and their weaponized tears or their weaponized accusations or their weaponized innocence. Yeah, I do feel like that's pretty important to speak on, because the idea here is women will try their absolute damnedest to get some form of control in one way or another, right? And it manifests in multiple different ways, i.e. here, I couldn't see any of these women really, or any women in general, really needing that much control to start, like, digging in and, like, saying, like, oh, he definitely did it, there's proof, there's this, there's that, put him in jail, that kind of thing, when it's hard to defend Andrew Tate. You know what I mean? There's people that, like, I would defend and be like, dude, no, like, there's no way that this would fucking happen. And then there's people like Andrew Tate where I'm like, all right, well, I don't really give a shit enough to, like, try to take your side on this, because in my eyes, looking at him from the outside in, right? This is all outside in perspective. It wouldn't surprise me if he actually did shit like this. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to say inherently that for this case specifically I would give a shit, but the idea when it's very clear cut and dry of like someone being innocent, it's like, yeah, dude, hold the women accountable, you know?
Okay. All right. Yeah, because, I mean, I look at it like I don't care if you like or dislike Andrew Tate. I really don't. I could give two shits about it. The only reason I'm reporting on this is just for the simple fact that this keeps happening. And the fact that, you know, he is the more high profile of this, where everybody's eyes are on it, I think it needs to be kind of brought about a lot more, just for the simple fact that this keeps happening. And the thing is like you said, a lot of stuff happens in America and then it just kind of gets thrown under the rug and people forget about it. And that's what happens. There's a lot of basketball players, baseball players, you know, streamers and all this kind of stuff where they go through this bullshit, but like nobody knows. Why? Because it doesn't get coverage like this. It's not out there because of either who they are or what it is. So the fact that it's like, if we could stop this at the top, or at least be aware of it, or make you know, men that are successful or want to be successful or anything like that aware of this stuff going on, it's important, and you should give a shit about it. And you know what I mean? Because it's one of those things where it's like, feel how you want to feel about Andrew Tate. That's not what matters here. What matters here is the context of what's happening. Because this is happening to Andrew Tate, you, me, a guy listening, a guy who does this, does that, is in college, on his way up, stuff like that. They're not impervious to this shit. Nobody's impervious to this whole allegation shit. And that's why I bring about this to attention, because it's like, dude, we got to look at the context of it. Fuck the person. Who cares? I look at it like the context of what's going on is what matters the most. And that is the message that needs to be just kind of pushed out. And that's why I care. That's why I look at it like, nah. Because the innocence and the proven of false allegations of these women and the innocence of Andrew Tate is going to show that this Me Too, believe all women, believe all this bullshit, and, you know, taking this super serious is not good. It's a thing where it's a very slippery slope, you know, because again, you have all these women that are doing this, but then you have real victims, and the real victims are being hurt by this because these women want to sit there and, oh, you know, how can we get money out of them? How can we do this? How can we do that? So it's like, if we can stop the false allegations, then I think the real victims will be able to feel more comfortable about coming out. Why? Because we can actually believe them. We can actually be like, you know what? Yes, you were raped. Yes, you were sexually assaulted. Yes, this did happen to you. But because you have these bitches doing this shit, we're like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if you actually got raped. I don't know if you... Yeah, and so that's the only reason why I say us having a platform and us having a voice and the people that listen to us, we need to give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Really, yeah, again, the idea for me is holding people accountable. So, yeah, for the women that are doing stuff like this, where, again, like you were saying, you know, they just, how can I get money, whatever, extortion, yada, 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 right? And it's not really even subject to just women doing this, because men do similar things in different fashions, right? And not necessarily false allegations, but extortion, like trying to play game systems, whatever, right? Get over on the people that they deem lesser. So, again, it's, for me, you know, I don't truly ever pay attention to too much that goes on, but there are a few things that do burn me up, and they're more so centered around like the youth of our generation, of our world, of our country, right? But that being said, I just, again, it all boils down to like the idea of control, right? A lot of these women, I feel like, just feel so helpless in society, so beaten down, so out of power, that they feel as if there's some sort of or there needs to be some sort of power balance through their actions of like, oh, he raped me, or, you know, these movements that like they piggyback off of, right? Because again, there's plenty of times where, like you said, the real victims that have stuff like this happen to get like swept under the rug because of the outliers that make shit up, right? And that's coming from personal experience where I have talked with a lot of women in my day back in, like, when I was in the Marine Corps, throughout college, stuff like that. And it's a high majority that for some reason have experienced some type of sexual abuse in their lives. And my first instinct is, dude, like, why didn't you say anything? And it's like, well, no one believed me, or no one gave a shit. You know what I mean? So the idea is it's very hard to go on and talk about these things because people just either give too high of a shit and then things start to get wacko, or they don't give enough shit. You know what I mean? Like the idea that women get sexually assaulted and people are like, oh, dude, like, you shouldn't have like dressed whatever, or you shouldn't have been there with your, you know what I mean? That idea is what bothers me, is that no one can really be believed, right? Because of all this wacko back and forth, lack of control type ordeal, where you have women like this that, like, they get upset because they get treated how they should be, right? You throw up in someone's house, you get kicked out. They're like, sweet, dude, I'm ruining your life. Yeah. And it's like, what are we doing here? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I get what you're saying, where for me, when I saw this initially, I was like, dude, you fucking hit people, you're gonna go to jail, right? But again, there's just so much intricacy that goes into a lot of, like, allegations, relationships, stuff like that, where it's like, all right, for me, again, it's hard to speak on when so much is, like, in the back end, you know what I mean? Because, like you said, women will fucking participate actively, and they're like, thank God I have the ability to fucking withdraw consent afterwards. You know what I mean? I was running a little low on money, I'm gonna withdraw, you know? And then there are times where, like, they kind of feel like they're in a situation where they're trapped, so they agree, and then they're like, dude, the whole time I was just trying to get it over with, you know? So it again, it's hard for me to really fully commit when there's so much ambiguity and so much confusion in a lot of these allegations, a lot of these charges, a lot of these situations, because nothing really ever is cut and dry, where, you know, at one point they're like, yeah, I did make shit up, and it's like, that may have just been easier to say, like, I made shit up, instead of fully fighting the fight. Or they were like, well, you know, I don't have enough proof, so now it looks like I was lying, and now I'm told that I'm a liar and I'm scrutinized. So it's like, again, it's just hard for me to fully commit or give a shit when, you know, there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of stuff in my own life that I got going on, as well as, you know, anyone that gets invested in this is like, how much are you really helping when facts are skewed? There's ambiguous elements to these situations, you know? Yeah.
I mean, every situation is going to be different, and every case is going to be different. So, you know, there is a lot to play into that, and I understand that. But I mean, I look at it like, you know, we have a platform, and the thing is, you know, if we don't use our platform for some kind of good and to make some kind of change, you know what I mean, we can't really call ourselves men. You know, because to be a man is to make change in the world, you know what I mean? To make impact on the world. And, you know, for us, we look at it like, if we can do just, you know, even a little bit of that, even if it's just awareness, you know, I think that is worth it. And that's the only reason why I'm, you know, talking about it. You know what I mean? So, okay. Let's get into the David situation, because first off, okay, have you heard of anything with the David thing? Have you read anything on it or?
The only thing I really know about it is, and this is a quick synopsis.
Okay.
Is David got involved with a 12, 11-year-old, whatever. There's speculation that it was 11, 12, whatever, underaged. Got involved, kind of started blowing up around that time because he wasn't really blown up, you know. From what I heard, his music was just kind of like a side thing. He kind of wanted to be like a Twitch streamer or something like that, playing video games. But then because of like the copyright things that, you know, Twitch and YouTube and all that went on a fucking big hinge on, he started making his own music. And then people were like, damn, this shit's actually pretty good. So he was like, fuck it, I'll make music. And that was along the same times that he knew Celeste. And as he started coming up, he was like, yeah, there's kind of a lot of eyes on me. I might get in trouble if I obsess over this fucking chick. Now I'm going to start paying people off to keep their mouth shut, you know? And so he paid off her friends, tried to hide shit, tried to keep a relationship, realized I'm kind of getting extorted for money. And he was like, yeah, I'm just going to kill this bitch instead, right? And
she was going to go public with their relationship.
Yeah, and that's why he was like, yeah, I can't get exposed. I'm killing her, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, he killed her, and then he tried to, you know, create an alibi at the same time, you know, put her in a trunk or the frunk of a goddamn Tesla, and was like, yeah, dude, I was in wherever the fuck with my doing a tour. I couldn't have killed her. And they're like, dude, we're not fucking dumb, you did this terribly, you know? So
yeah, like he literally got her an Uber. She got to the house. When she got to the house, they got into an argument. He then stabbed her multiple times, watched her bleed out on the floor. Then this nigga decided, I'm gonna hop on the Postmates. I'm gonna order a kiddie pool. I'm gonna order a saw and body bags and tarps. That shit comes in. He goes to the garage and puts her in a kiddie pool, chops her up, puts her in a bag and puts her in multiple bags, puts her into the trunk. They go park the Tesla in a no parking zone, so it then gets towed and gets taken to an impound. Then he goes on tour talking about, yo dog, we were at the thing, we couldn't have done it, whatever. His manager tried to come out and say, I did it, bro, it was me, I wasn't even on tour with him at the time, so on and so forth. They check cell phone records and also credit card records. He was with David the entire time. Yeah. So then they were just like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? That's why he wasn't arrested last year. He got arrested. No, he wasn't arrested in 2024. He got arrested in 2025. That was the reason for that, because his friend kind of took the rap. And so then they found out that nigga was lying, and they were like, bro, why are you lying? Now you conspiracy, bro. You going to jail too, stupid. Yeah. And so now they got him. What I wanted to cover this for, because personally I don't give a fuck about this shit. We're not a crime channel. But the reason I'm covering this is because you have daughters. Yeah. And so what do you think the parents could have done to kind of alleviated or prevented their daughter from running away with a dude that's 5-6 years older than her and being influenced by this? And
it really sparks a lot that I've been thinking on recently, because the idea is, without dreams and aspirations, you kind of just throw your fucking life away relatively quickly, you know? So the idea is, and dude, she had lived pretty close to me. Like, I live in a similar part of California that she's from, right? You know, she's from Lake Elsinore, California, and it's again, that's relatively close to us, right? So me personally, knowing a lot of Hispanics, a lot of the Hispanic community,
and being married to one,
you know,
that gives you credibility.
And in all honesty, I don't really give a fuck about saying this. It's just been announced onto me that a lot of Hispanics really just don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
About their kids?
About life in general. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, really?
The idea is, Yes, you have they're very hard fucking working. You cannot take that from any Hispanic, right? They will work to the fucking goddamn bone. But once any other bit of mental stress is put onto there, and granted, right, you could say the same about the black community. Once any other mental load is thrown in there, they fucking throw their goddamn hands up. You know what I mean? And so the idea is, from what I took from what was going on with Celeste, is she was a troublemaker. She was giving her parents too much of a goddamn headache, and they were just kind of like, dude.
Yeah, she ran away from
motherfucker, like, stop being annoying. And she was like, I'm running away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they were like, they kind of didn't give a shit at first from what I took from the stories. Like, they're like, dude, she runs away all the time. It's kind of getting fucking annoying at this point. Like, you know, she ran away. And then they were like, yeah, she didn't come back this time. What's going on? And so then they started like, oh, fuck, dude, she's dead, you know? And I just see that as a problem in the Hispanic community. Whereas you guys talk a lot about family, you talk a lot about loving, you know, other Hispanics, you talk a lot about not causing issues, and yet and still the same things that cause your family issues is a lot of the stuff you try to deny or not really face, you know what I mean? So in my mind, what really happened is they had this troubled child, they weren't paying enough attention to her, and she fucking ran away with this guy and
she
got
found that attention, huh?
She found that attention, got killed, you know what I mean? Because she had no other dreams and aspirations, right? She probably was made fun of from a very young age for having feelings, for having emotions, for having dreams, and they fucking chopped her at the fucking knees and stopped that shit, and she had no aspirations, and that's how she ended up with David, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, David's just some random fuck, you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
He knows how to sing. He's not fantastic. He's not some magic being.
He ain't Michael Jackson.
And look, right? They knew prior that they had kind of been having a relationship, and they still didn't give a shit. They were like, oh, you know, he's older, whatever. Who cares? You know what I mean? Whereas the Hispanics that are actually involved, right, the ones that are hardworking and try to raise their kids to the best of their ability by breaking away from those negative outlooks, those negative traits that the trauma that they endured has instilled in them. From breaking away from that, they raise their kids to be very productive, very outgoing, very strong members of society, right? But there is a large portion that I see specifically, and you guys can fault me all you fucking want, but I talk to a lot of people on a day-to-day basis through sales, and the amount of people that I speak to that are like, you know, they fake not speaking English, or they put on this show of like, I don't know shit, or they put on the show of like, oh, my family will be fine, whatever, right? And I don't really like to bring it back to my profession, but at the same time, it's like, if I ask you straight up, like, dude, what would happen to your family if you passed away, right? You're the breadwinner in your family, yes? Then why do you not have some protection in your family? Well, I'd be dead, so I don't give a fuck. It's like, how can you as a head of the household, or even a large portion, because the females are a huge part of the household as well, right? They do all the cooking, the clean, like they legitimately, religiously do all the cooking, the cleaning, the organizing, the maintenance, all that shit on the back end while their husbands are at work. And for them too, they're like, no, that's another bill. Like, I don't want to pay money for that shit. And it's like, dude, the idea that you'll be so irresponsible in other senses really puts into perspective of like you said, dude, with Celeste, I really just think that they needed to be more involved, and they weren't willing to be, and that's what ended up leading her to make the decisions that also led to David being a fucking weak man and not taking what was coming to him, or just finding a regular chick that's his age.
Thank you.
Like, the idea is like, bro, David, I swear to God, it blows my mind when people like David, who are 6 foot black gentlemen who are not fucking ugly that can sing
and rich
for some reason don't want to find a woman their age or older. There's plenty of women that are rich, that are your age, not rich, that are your age or older, that would fucking take you in a heartbeat, and you wanted to mess with a 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old for what?
Yeah.
And I guarantee she had nothing special going on.
Nothing special.
Nothing, because I know the area that she lives in, and there ain't shit over there. There is. He lived a way better life than that entire city can produce.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you look it up. Look up Lake Elsinore, California on TikTok. You'll see what the fuck I'm talking about. The amount of strung out, homeless, whatever the fuck over there. You'll see it, dude. And you'll be like, dude, this is the fucking place that produced the young lady that got David to fucking go crazy and kill her and lose his career.
Yeah, I mean, when you see those videos of people that are just like leaning and shit, that's where they're at.
Yes,
they're not in LA. That's not LA. I mean, yeah, are they in LA? Sure, but
and
they're there.
They're everywhere because, again, right. The reason I know that area is because of my profession when I was doing door to door. Is like, I would go to the different places and I would talk to people. I'm like, dude, what are you doing out here? They're like, dude, San Diego got too expensive. LA got too expensive. So we moved the fuck out here.
Yeah.
Because it's lower. It's a cheaper cost of living.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, an 11-year-old girl from that area, dude, is the reason you threw your whole fucking life away.
And it's crazy because when we go over what, they talked about, this is the preliminary court. This is not criminal court. This is not the trial.
Right.
Okay, this is a preliminary. This is what they're trying to, pretty much the prosecution is coming to the judge and saying, hey, we want to take this to trial. This is all the evidence that we have to create probable cause.
Yeah.
I only saying that because I know what a preliminary court is, but people out there probably don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm explaining that. But this guy actually was in the courtroom. He sat down in the courtroom listening to the preliminary trial go on. He listened to the prosecution. He listened to the defense cross-examine the prosecutioner's witnesses, all that kind of stuff. They're going to talk about the autopsy and everything like that. I'm not going to play the full video. The full video is like 40 minutes long. I'm going to play maybe like 20-30 minutes of it just to kind of get an idea of like what was going on in there and stuff like that. And then after hearing about it, we'll talk about it and everything like that. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Did it to 4, and I thought I'd seen the worst of it, but this was by far the worst thing that I've seen in this entire hearing. The evidence that we saw from the medical examiner, they showed the full autopsy, they showed the full photographs of the autopsy table. It pains me to have to say this, but I'll just tell you straight exactly what it was, and it's a trigger warning in case you don't want to hear anything graphic, but they put together the body back together again in one piece. They took the severed torso and head, the limbs, the legs that had been cut into 4 pieces, the arms that had both been cut off, and rearranged them on the autopsy table. Now, what was really, really sad about that is it just showed you it really gave you an appreciation of just what an awful state Celeste had been left in by the person that did this to her. Now, I think that what was really, really heartbreaking was when you're seeing these horrible, horrible images a few days ago of liquefied remains in a bag, you're seeing, severed limbs piled up in a trash bag. It's very, very horrible. It was horrific and just traumatic to even see. But it felt she'd been dehumanized. She'd been cut into pieces. She was no longer a full, whole person. But when everything was put back together on that autopsy table and we could see her as one being, as a person, not as a bag of, I'm not even going to say it, but not as a bag of matter, but as an actual person with arms and legs and a head laid out on a table, it really, really became real. I was honestly shocked. It really, really, this is the first time in the trial I've felt genuinely angry. I was actually felt angry and furious, and I looked over to David when that was being shown, and I just felt pure anger. I felt raged. I actually felt enraged. I was so disgusted. It was the most disgusted I've been in this whole set of hearings so far. It was awful. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, honestly. And I said that a few days ago when I saw the contents of those bags, but this was worse, and it felt even more personal and just despicable. So what we then heard was kind of a back and forth with the medical examiner, and I would say that David's team were using some absolutely desperate tactics. They're trying to kind of go down this line of questioning. They're like, oh, maybe Celeste stabbed herself. Absolute nonsense. David's defense are absolutely flailing, and David even looked pissed off at his defense because they were doing such a horrible job, to be honest with you. They're probably doing the best with what they've got, but when you see that stuff on screen, the last few straws that they're clutching, minuscule, okay, very, very tiny straws that they're clutching on that really don't have much juice in them at all, if that metaphor makes any sense. But anyway, I'll kind of break down everything to you. At the start, David came in with good energy. I'll tell you what, that didn't last very long. He kind of had, you know, a little bit more energy than he kind of had at points yesterday when I was in there, and I could kind of see that how it was going down for him. There was definitely some ups and downs over the last few days, but the medical examiner who had taken the stand yesterday, they only got up there for about 5 minutes, and as I described in the video that I did yesterday, I felt like Blair Burke, David's defense, were kind of filibustering, to be honest. A few people gave me their opinions before going inside. A lot of people felt that maybe Beth Silverman was sort of filibustering and delaying a little bit. The main head district attorney was kind of nearby and watching, and some people thought, oh no, maybe she was kind of showing off and, you know, trying to run circles around the defense to show off to the main DA. I thought it was Blair Burke that was really filibustering and really just trying to push back the full medical examiner testimony into today, which is what ended up happening. But anyway, I've got much more to drink today, and rather than yesterday's video, so I will be able to talk much more clearly and with a lot more energy. So basically, I'll run you through kind of everything that was said. And basically, they kind of went back and forth with the medical examiner. It started off with Beth. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna hand the camera off to my trusty helper right here. You got that? Yeah, all good. Cool. So basically, from here, we kind of heard this testimony about he basically said a lot of things that there were a lot of things that he could say and a lot of things that the medical examiner couldn't say. Basically said, look, I can't estimate exactly how long she's been dead. The environmental factors make it very, very hard. He described scavengers, weather condition, insect activity. All of this stuff made it damn near impossible to determine exactly when she passed away. But what he did say, it was clear that this person had been dead at least weeks. They said, can't you say months? He said, well, look, I say weeks because 8 weeks could be 2 months, but if I say a month, that means it has to be 4 weeks. He said it's multiple weeks at least. That's the best that I can do. And as I told you guys yesterday, a lot of this comes down to, you know, accuracy. They can't say anything with 1,000,000%, not even a million, with 100% certainty. They can't really confirm anything. They can just give you a really high probability of, you know, what they believe happened based on their expert research and the evidence, but nothing is 100%. But he said, look, it seemed, it's said it was clear that the person had been dead at least weeks. Now, there was kind of this sort of back and forth about whether the autopsy was kind of done to a high standard, and there was an assistant that assisted with the autopsy, and they tried to kind of attack that a bit, but it didn't really go anywhere. But basically, the main person that did the autopsy, I won't say their name, but the medical examiner who dealt with this, they had a trainee medical examiner that was kind of supporting them. They conducted the autopsy together. They kind of explained a lot of things out loud during that autopsy as it was conducted, and then notes were taken, and that was kind of submitted in a overall report. And we basically saw diagrams and images and essentially kind of like a lot of backstory about, you know, what was really going on in that medical examiner's autopsy table and while this was all going on. So from here, we kind of saw a breakdown of exactly, you know, the state that the body was found in, the kind of insights that they were able to gather from taking a look at the body under these, you know, lab circumstances, essentially. Obviously, they explained that, you know, the body was severely decomposed. It was just an awful state that the body was found in. The medical examiner basically explained later on that, you know, they've done thousands and hundreds of autopsies like this, but to actually see somebody in this state that was this severely decomposed and dismembered, that was very rare. And he couldn't say the exact amount of times that he's dealt with situations like this, but he kind of, it sounded like, you know, it was definitely under 50. He said 25 perhaps. Was it 10? He said he couldn't say for sure, but it sounded like this was such a serious, awful state that the body was found in that there was very little reference points that he actually had as far as not many cases or bodies that he's found in this condition in his previous career experience. And everybody in the courtroom was just kind of impacted just by the horrific state that Celeste's body was kind of found in. It was just awful to even see that the medical examiners were having to deal with this situation that had been created by whoever was responsible, which we're trying to get to the bottom of through this hearing and eventually probably a trial. But anyway, there were references and images of some of the evidence that we had seen previously. We saw more photographs of the severed edges of the dismembered limbs, which had the blue plastic material, and we heard pretty damning testimony yesterday about how this blue plastic material had allegedly came from this blue plastic kiddie pool that was apparently used as like a basin to pretty much, you know, pull the blood and at least a sloppy attempt to kind of gather evidence when this alleged dismemberment happened in what looked to be David's garage. So we saw those plastic fragments again, and we'd seen yesterday that those plastic fragments that were found in the wounds and the plastic fragments that were actually, the entire kiddie pool that was found in David's garage were a perfect match. It was like two puzzle pieces coming together perfectly. The blue plastic from the wounds and the plastic kiddie pool that had chunks of it missing, and that was just incredibly damning. And again, we just saw more awful pictures of the wounds with the blue plastic in them, embedded in them before they had actually been taken out, which was just awful to see. I don't think anything could have prepared me for what I saw in that courtroom today. The images that they showed that were part of the autopsy were just horrific, the worst stuff I've ever seen. And you know, I've covered a lot of cases, a lot of crimes, a lot of murders, but I've never seen anything like this, and it was absolutely awful. It felt like there were gasps in the courtroom. I felt like David's reaction was kind of quite shocking, but I'll get to that in a minute. But from there, the medical examiner kind of explained that there was kind of like, you know, different tools that were used. You know, they believed that tools were basically used to cut through these limbs. And it was really interesting because the medical examiner was basically asked, well, how do you cut up a cadaver when you were dealing with an autopsy? And they basically explained that they kind of use different kinds of tools to cut the body. They said through soft tissue, we cut through using a scalpel. We would use a circular bone saw if we need to cut through bones. And this was really bizarre. They said that, you know, when they need to cut through something like ribs, they use something, they sort of said it's something akin to like a hedge cutter, which I just thought was kind of like very bizarre. And just a weird way to refer to it, but this is how matter of fact it is, that if those are the tools that they're using, those are the tools that they're using. Just more kind of these just shocking details and nuances that just made you think, wow, that's really what they're used to using. And it kind of sounded like the medical examiner was inferring that, you know, he's got experience cutting through bones and the sorts of equipment and tools and machinery that are needed to actually sever through a bone. And he was given that expert opinion. He said power tools are the only thing powerful enough to cut through bone. There's no way that you could have done that with a knife, or, you know, they didn't put any other kind of theories forward, but they basically said it had to be power tools. We can't say what. They didn't say it's a chainsaw. We didn't say it was definitely this product or that product, but pretty much just said outright, it has to be power tools to cut through the bone. That's the only thing that you can do. And this is somebody that cuts through bones for a living as part of autopsies. So it was, you know, he was extremely professional. He was clearly an expert, and he really knew his stuff. So it was very interesting. So we've kind of gone through some of that. We haven't really gone through any of that evidence yesterday, but things kicked off very quickly because the medical examiner had already taken the stand and been sworn in right at the end of yesterday. So it pretty much just went straight into his testimony, and you know, he kind of continued on from there. Now, there were a few interesting little pauses. There were kind of a few interesting little pauses because it seemed like Beth Silverman, the deputy DA, had actually kind of misplaced her phone at a certain point. And what was kind of strange was that she was very calm and cool and collected about it. She was kind of kicking ass yesterday. 2 people got kicked out of court. I heard that actually maybe a 3rd person got kicked out of court that I didn't even see. So we kind of saw that play out. We saw Beth kind of being, you know, a lot nicer today, even though she'd apparently misplaced her phone, or the phone, I suppose you'd be concerned that someone had taken the phone. But basically, she kind of, she joked before they kind of proceeded, like, oh, can somebody use their investigative skills to, you know, find out where my phone is? So she wasn't taking that too seriously, and she did turn around and actually speak to Celeste's family lawyer and ask how the family were doing very respectfully, which was kind of definitely different to what we had heard previously, where she was kind of admonishing him for, you know, sticking up for Steve Fisher when he was getting thrown out the day before. She said, I'll pull your badge, but she was kind of being cooler with him today, which was interesting. Now, I'm not going to read that. That's not important. But anyway, there was kind of some AV issues with the screen. Beth kind of joked as well. Oh, you know, you don't see this kind of thing in the movies, when they were basically talking about the AV system not working, saying you don't see that in these kind of big legal dramas that you see on TV and on Netflix and stuff like that. But this is kind of the moment where we ended up seeing, some of the images. And initially we saw the autopsy report. That's kind of what we've seen online. It's kind of, the outline drawing of the body with marks where alleged stab wounds were made. Well, we know that they're stab wounds now. Where the bodies were, where the legs were severed in 2 places with lines showing that, where the hands, the arms were severed, as well as 2 fingers from one of the hands which was severed. But from there, he said, look, he can't determine if the cuts were made post or ante-mortem. And again, it's kind of, there were a lot of semantics, but it was basically kind of like, look, he wasn't going to speculate on what weapon, well, not necessarily weapon, but tool was used to dismember the body. They said, Beth basically asked, could this be consistent with the use of a power saw? He said, look, we can't determine exactly what was used. We can't make a guess. This isn't what we do. We're just basically explaining what we do know and what we can work out. And we don't know whether exactly when these cuts were made. The cut surfaces were observed to be flat and clean, so clearly a very powerful tool was used to cut them. They weren't pulled apart, they weren't broken apart or anything like that. And they basically said, they asked, well, could this potentially be a chainsaw? And they basically admit it could potentially be a chainsaw. The 4th and 5th digits of the left hand were amputated, which we kind of already knew. There was kind of similar cut surfaces to all of the limbs, so it sounded like it was probably the same tool that was used to kind of cut the body up. And they were actually uneven. They kind of observed that it definitely wasn't possible that it was a straight cut through both legs. One leg's cut was higher than the other. The arm cuts weren't perfectly even, and then even the second cut to cut the severed legs into 2, they weren't even too, so it did seem like this was one at a time that these cuts had been made. Now, they once again observed the tattoo, the shush tattoo on the right second finger, so her index finger, which was sort of on the inside or sort of outside of her finger, which would be closer to her body, which is what they said, so it would have been the outside, the shush tattoo right there. So David stared at the screen while the fingers were being shown, and he'd been shown this before, but I did kind of feel like he was really staring at the screen. He was definitely getting a good look. We saw him kind of fidget and look away a little bit yesterday, but at this point, he was quite dialed in, locked in, looking at the screen. But what was very interesting was when just the most horrific image was shown. It is the worst. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. They showed a full photo of the whole front of the body on the autopsy table as it had been arranged with all of the limbs put together. And I noticed David visibly recoiled when this was shown. I think nearly everyone in the court was shocked. Or I would think a lot of people in that courtroom, that was the worst thing they'd ever seen too. The body was very decayed, it was very darkened, bruised, but it was all put together. You could see, obviously, the shape of a human. It really personified Celeste. And rest in peace to Celeste, because at the end of the day, this is all about her. This is all about the fight for justice for her. And a lot of people have forgotten and overlooked the fact that this is a real person. People talk about girl in the trunk, body in the trunk. She wasn't a body in the trunk. She wasn't a bag full of stuff. She was a real life person, Celeste.
Okay. So like I said, I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's really long. But I wanted to get to the point where he talked about David when he saw the pictures. What do you think went through his mind seeing that on the screen? Because some people are saying that he was bored. Some people were saying that he was kind of just like, and then there's some guys like him that are saying he was kind of like, What do you think went through his mind sitting there just watching all of that?
He probably had conversations with his lawyers about what kind of defense they were going to make. And
okay.
He's probably looking to see if there's any consistency with what the plan is with what's being shown and how it's being perceived in court. So
okay.
The idea there is probably he's watching to see, like, is there going to be any reasonable way to disprove, like, hey, this is actually Celeste? Or, is there any way to disprove, like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of defense you could make, but I think that's what he's getting at, is like, he's paying attention to see how well it's going to go for him. And with him getting, like, disgusted and whatnot, I mean, I think any human would be disgusted with a body being chopped up and rearranged and decomposed and put in front of you. So, like, obviously on the screen, but the idea still is...
I mean, I asked that because it's like, he was the one that did that to her. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you weren't disgusted by the fact that you stabbed her multiple times, you cut her up and put her in a bag, if you weren't disgusted at that, why the fuck would you be all of a sudden disgusted at seeing your work?
I think... because I think David is just a regular dude,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
he probably did that in a heat of passion or like in a state of lunacy, right? Was like, dude, you know, in the time he was like, I'm just so determined not to get caught. Like, you're not going to take this from me, whatever. Right. I don't know if that's what he said. That's just like what plays in my mind.
Of course.
He stabbed her and was like, dude, you know, if I chop her up and get rid of her, that should be easier to try to get away with. Right.
Yeah.
And hence why he probably like cut the digits off of like the shush tattoo and was like trying to make it very hard to identify the body.
Yeah,
you know
very
what I mean?
indistinguishable.
And then so from there, after all that had transpired and like all this time later, he's like been thinking about it like, dude, I really did that, you know? And then when it showed up on the screen, he's like, dude, that's what I did, you know? And that in my mind is like, after all that adrenaline and, you know, lunacy wore off, now he's like, fuck, dude, like,
damn,
you know? And again, for you just like, it's so fucked up to think that like I know I feel for the parents because they probably were like it'll never get to that kind of point, you know, like you never think like it's gonna be my daughter, it's gonna be my son, or it's gonna be someone I know, you know. And as like a quick tidbit in there is like there was another gentleman, 26 years old. He recently was killed by ICE, right? And again, you know, say what you want about ICE. I don't agree with what the fuck their little tyrant rampage they've been on. But the idea is, again, you just never know what's going to fucking happen, right? That I speak to young people as well in my line of profession, and a lot of them are like, yeah, I'm healthy, I'm safe, whatever, yada, yada, right? And I'm pretty sure that dad, right, because he was a 26-year-old dad, thought he was fine, he was safe, nothing could happen to him, right?
Yeah, I'm so
he
young.
definitely wasn't expecting to be shot to death, right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, ICE killed him. Now his 3-year-old daughter has no dad, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here with like Celeste is like, you know, she like the parents are probably like, you know, she's just running amok, figuring herself out or whatever they're thinking, you know, and they're like, you know, I'm just kind of tired of dealing with it. But never in their life did they think like, you know, my daughter's not going to come home. She's going to be cut up. You know, that sort of thing, right? So it really just, in my mind, really hits home to what I do, because not only does life insurance help in those kind of situations, it then takes off some of the burden of like, you know, the GoFundMes that they have to raise and like the other hardships that are involved with not only some fuck shit of like this murderer is out there now still alive and he did this to your 15-year-old child, but now the costs that are involved with like lawyering up, trying to figure out the facts and trying to, you know, pay for everything that's going to be this long drawn out process is now also going to be would be taken care of by a company like mine that I work for. You know what I mean? So the idea there is just like, dude, in my mind, I just really am focused on the idea of like, as a responsible member of society, you never know what could happen. So it really justifies me in my mind what I do as work, as well as it really pushes me that much harder to be the kind of dad that I'm striving to be for my kids, because I don't want them to feel like they should be allowed to stay in situations like maybe Celeste thought because of, you know, self-esteem issues or identity issues or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? And that's what really hits home for me, is the fact that a young girl that this should not have happened to, parents that this should not have happened to, now are being forced to not only deal with this, but also are thrown into the media because of this man or this creature that did this, you know?
Yeah, because that ain't no man, bro.
Definitely not.
He is ridiculous. But yeah, I wanted to get your take on it because, you know, you being a dad, this is something where it's like I try to choose these types of scenarios and these types of things to talk about because like we always say, there's a lot of parents that are just missing the mark, man. And those parents that aren't missing the mark, dude, they hear this and they're just like, damn right. You know what I mean? And obviously they're doing their thing. But it's just like, I think there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of like somebody who is a parent talking to other people who are parents and kind of like putting a mirror up to them and being like, yo, dude, this is the fucking dumb shit that you're doing. And if you don't straighten up what you got going on, this is what's going to happen to your kid.
Yeah.
This is how your kid is going to act. You know what I mean? And then by them acting this way, this is how they're going to end up.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy to me. And that's why, like I said, I'm no dad, you know, and that's why I try to bring you on as that person that can speak to that, because you know what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I wanted to talk about that, and I'm glad that you were able to give your 2 cents on it and everything, because again, to me, just hearing all this stuff, I'm not even a dad, and I'm just like, this is fucking insane and nuts. So yeah. All right. We're going to get into this scenario or this video that you had sent in. Do you want to go through it, or do you kind of want to just play it?
This was kind of along the lines of what we were talking about. I believe it was last week with the rules of engagement, right? You have a fucking crazy out there being absolutely fucking stupid and disgusting, but 2, what we had talked about with the escalation of force, and I'll kind of break down my perspective on it, but we'll play it and then I'll tell you what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Problem. Why do you let those kids get away with this? They are not supposed to be here! If you don't lower your voice, I am going to put handcuffs on you and I'm going to take you to a Baker Act facility. You lower your voice. Fucking try it. Are you threatening me? You're threatening me. Are you threatening me? I'm gonna just... Because I'm here right now to deal with a stolen vehicle. I ain't got time to hear you screaming and yelling. I don't have time to constantly be abused. We'll get OPD down here then, because I gotta work this stolen vehicle. What do you mean OPD? Alpha 73 University. Alpha 73. Can we get another unit to deal with Jay Lee here? He is having a breakdown. Say! Just say the right pronoun. What do you say?
You need to back the fuck up.
Get down on the ground right now. No! You're about to get sprayed. No! Get down on the ground right now. Leave me alone! I can come in there. Leave me alone, please! Okay, are you gonna calm down? I'm getting my phone out. I have to film this. I'm telling you, are you gonna calm down? I will calm down. I will calm down. Do you know what this is? I will calm down when you get the pepper spray out of my face. Alpha 73. Leave me alone! I have just please! Pepper spray. Please! Just stop pointing the pepper spray at me! I will calm down if you do that! Stop threatening me! Yeah, lower your voice. Leave me alone! Leave me alone! Do you want to get tased? I want you to leave me alone! You have been particularly abusing me! If you come towards me one more time, follow me. You are gonna. It's such abuse administrators. I gotta deal with this. Don't you remember? Jaylee, come. He's focus on me. Okay. Okay. Get away! You don't tell me where to go. Stop. Fuck you! Fuck you, cop! Alpha 73 University. No, it's too late now. It's too late now. He's gonna be taken away.
Oh my God, bro!
I just want to get away from him. I understand that. He needs. I'm gonna spray him. No, please don't spray. Don't say him. Her. Okay, her. I'm gonna spray her. Thank you. Put your hand behind your back. No. Yes. What's the problem?
All right. So again, rules of engagement here. You know, cop walked up, was like, "Yo, what's been going on?" That thing, he started screaming.
Well, actually, they were there for something else. He had said that he was there for, I think it was they got broken into a car or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, he was like approaching, trying to figure out what's going on. Right. walking into the scenario, that thing started yelling.
Yeah.
Which
is impediment.
Impediment. He then stops and is like, yo, dude, if you don't calm down, because again, you just never know what's going to happen, right? Cop assessed the situation, was like, dude, it's just fucking stamping his feet, whatever, right? Pulled out the pepper spray when he started escalating. And then from there, after like he realized like this is probably not a threat, it's just a fucking thing throwing a temper tantrum, put the pepper spray away, right? It's the same exact thing with that sort of line of rules of engagement does still apply to weapons as well, right? If you have someone that pulls out a knife, you make ready. You don't aim, but you make ready, right, in case they do attack. If they throw the knife away, then you then put your firearm away, right? As well as with a gun, even if they make ready, which is, if you don't know what make ready is, it just means you draw your weapon and put it in a particular weapon where you could present and start firing. But even in the instance of someone making ready, you make ready. Once they aim with intent to fire, then you aim intent to fire, and then once fired upon, you fire back, right? But I wanted to bring this up because it's just another thing of like, one, again, we have absolutely lazy parenting going on here. We have fucking, I don't know what you want to call it. I'm going to say he because, right, it's a he.
I would have said it just.
But you have this, I think, gentleman here throwing a temper tantrum. And I know just from my own personal experience of, not with me specifically, but the idea of what I've learned over life is when you have a lack of the ability to understand what is within your control, you start to do these desperate song and dances of an attempt to get control over things you don't control, right?
Yeah.
It'd be as if I went out to the front yard and started screaming at the sky to turn red. You know what I mean? Eventually, it may turn red, but that just is my own delusion, you know? As well as the same thing here where he's like, she, her, whatever the fuck. It's like, okay, you know.
I'm going to pepper spray her then.
Yeah, the whole thing, the whole time, nothing was wrong. But they just wanted to be, he just wanted to be acknowledged and seen for who they felt they were, right? And that's because they have taken on this persona that they deemed the one at birth was not getting them what they wanted. So they created another persona in order to get, in a different form or fashion, the like recognition, the acknowledgement, the recognition and acknowledgement that they wanted, right? And so it's just another thing, another idea, another example of what I'm talking about with, as a parent, you need to be able to validate your child enough to where it's like, hey, look, I get that you may feel this way and this may be how your reality is, but we can talk about it and go over how you can come to terms with things versus just putting it off like you're weird or letting them do whatever the fuck they feel like they should be able to do to try to get control, right? And so this is an example of, one, poor lack of self-emotional regulation, lack of solidification and self-identity, to where they now are, what I'm getting at is they just don't like who they are so much that they're trying to project this other way, because they know that they can get away with, like, if I throw a temper tantrum, if I say I'm a her, no one can say I'm wrong, and no one can say that they can't call me that because this is what I'm requesting. So again, this is all little short forms of, I'm going to try to take back control for an identity that I want to be perceived as through this means, right? It's as if I would sit here and be like, you know what, I'm a girl now, and if you say anything different, you're wrong, because, again, they just use these nuances to gain control in the situation. Because what do these people do? Like, oh, I'm a girl. Well, what defines a girl? Well, XYZ. The normal constructs that you guys agree with socially are incorrect because it's whatever I perceive. You can't tell me my perception's wrong, because that's all anyone ever does, is use their perception to regulate whether or not reality is real or not. And from there, it just becomes this battle of control. Whereas you saw at the end, they were like, it's she. Okay, well, I'm gonna pepper spray her then, or whatever, right? Okay, thank you. Shut the fuck up immediately. You know what I mean? Because all they want is some form of recognition and control over their own identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, to that point, raise your kids better. To the rules of engagement point, yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It may not be ideal for your own health, right? But as the responsible authority in America, or in any situation, it's set up that way so you don't make a mistake and you end up hurting someone maliciously with like, I guess, ignorant intent. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I mean, look, I understand. I think the cop handled it perfectly, with a like irrational individual. I mean, look, you also got to understand, these people deal with the worst of the worst people every single day. Every single day. They go to work like, yup, gonna go deal with the worst of the worst. And so, a lot of times, man, I don't blame a lot of cops for being extremely like antsy with a lot of individuals, just for the simple fact of like, I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. You know what I mean? A Mexican dude almost stabbed me yesterday. You know what I mean? Because I let him get too close. A black dude tried to smash a beer bottle over my head or whatever. Like, you just got to understand that they deal with the worst of the worst people all day, every day. And the fact that they do, yeah, dude, they're gonna have a bit of their biases. They're gonna have a bit of their preconceived notions. They're gonna break that like rules of engagement every once in a while, just circumstantially. And then also, their track record with their time in the service. So it's like there's a lot that plays into it, and that's why I say the rules of engagement, yes, they're there to protect citizens and officers alike, but at the same time, when you're dealing with the worst of the worst people all the time, you don't know what to expect. So like this person, he realized, dude, you're not a fucking threat. Like, let me just, get another officer in here, and we'll just overpower this thing, because obviously it can't do anything to us, and that's what they did. But in the situation of last week, where this was completely different, I mean, there was a gun involved. There was, a situation where they kind of walked into it not really knowing the suspect, or not suspect, but I guess the suspect at the time barricaded themselves, into a building, then into a corner. So it just, again, when you're taking it situationally, it's like you can't just go off of like, this is what it is, and every situation is going to fall under it. It's like, this is what it is, and then let's take the circumstantial evidence that kind of led up to what then happened. And if it falls within even close to this, then we can say, hey, justified shoot. If it's too far off of it, then it's like, hey, there were other factors that kind of led you to break the rules of engagement, and no longer is that a viable shoot. So that's just how I feel about it when it comes to the rules of engagement thing. But yeah, I think they handled that thing perfectly. Did you have anything else to say to that scenario before we get into the next one?
I think they should have beat that thing, but whatever.
Oh, 100%. I was like, when are you going to beat it? I was, okay. Again, you guys love calling me horrible. That's why the show is Am I the Asshole? But I was like, pepper spray him.
Yeah, pepper spray that thing.
I was like, pepper spray him.
Fuck.
He's like, don't do it. And I just be like, shut up. Shut up. You're already breaking the law by impeding our investigation, bro. Like, shut up. Like, get the hell out of here, man. But all right, whatever. So, it wouldn't be an Am I the Asshole Sunday episode if we didn't have a delusional woman on the show, man. So I'm going to play this video, and you tell me what you think of it. I've already saw the video. I think it's absurd, but I'm like, I got to get the Rick's take on this shit. All right, here we go.
Some controversial rules in my relationship. Number one, I do what I want to do, and he does what I tell him to do. Basically, during my time on this earth, I have learned that men are literally fucking stupid, like basically brain dead. So it's just better and safer for everyone if I make the decisions and he obeys. Number two, I make it very clear that he's in a never-ending probationary period. I find that fear and intimidation are really great ways to get somebody to fall into line. So basically, I just keep him in a never-ending state of anxiety and uncertainty because he knows that if he has one tiny slip up, then I'm out the door. So that just helps to keep him on his best behavior. Number three, he handles all of the household chores and I don't do any of them. This is because he should be deriving all of his happiness from serving me. So cleaning, doing my laundry, those things make him genuinely happy because he's making my life easier. However, for me personally, I get my happiness from going out with friends, going shopping. So those are the things I spend my time doing. Number four, his money is my money and my money is my money. This one kind of ties into the last one because I genuinely don't understand why a man would need money other than to spend it on his wife or partner, so that one's kind of like common sense. I've been with my fiance for 7 years and we're getting married next year, so hopefully those rules can help you if you're having trouble finding a healthy relationship.
Excellent. I'm glad she found something that works for her.
That's for the dude who she's with, bro.
I cannot wait to see what kind of chair they get from IKEA. Because
when she's getting fucked by Nigerians.
Yeah, she is going to cuck the fuck out of that guy.
Bro, she's already cucking him.
Yeah,
man.
she's probably already cucking him.
She's already cucking him. It's like, bro, what the fuck is going on here, man? What the fuck? Like, at first, I thought this was a joke video. I thought she was playing at satire. Like, oh, I'm gonna say what guys say about women so that way they can kind of hear it, and you know, if you hear it from somebody else it might sound stupid. But then it was the ending part where she's like, oh yeah, I'm engaged and me and my fiance do this, and I'm like, bro, wait, what? Like, hold on. you have a guy that does this? Wow. So
it still may be satire, you know what I mean? She may have said like, hey, I'm gonna make this controversial video, babe, you know, don't take it to heart. Please don't leave me. You know what I mean?
But the thing is why would you let your girl go out and humiliate ritual you online? Why would you do that as a man? That's like saying your wife is like, oh, hey, I'm going to make this video that makes you look bad and I'm just going to post it on it. But it's a joke, though. Would you accept that?
I mean, in reality, right, to answer your question, no, but the idea is still, I mean, this is going to be the end of this my knowledge of this guy and this girl, you know what I mean? So,
I hope so.
Like, it's I think that along those lines where it's like that video happens, people move on and then stop giving a shit, you know?
Yeah,
It'd be one thing if, like, she made this video and then people went to the dude and started like harassing him. Then I'd be like, all right, dude, like, yeah, this is why you don't make even satire videos.
Yeah.
And then same thing with, like, in my life, if my wife decided, hey, I'm going to make a video and it resulted in me having some type of backlash, whatever the fucking case may be. One, if it really affected me monetarily, then I'd be like, all right, yeah, shouldn't have done that. No more phone for you, right? But in the event that it makes me money, then I'm like, whatever, dude, do what you want. You know what I mean? Depending on what it is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah,
because I'm like, you could, if you felt that way of like, oh, I don't care what she does as long as it makes me money. It's like, all right, then your wife having an OnlyFans and it makes her a bunch of money. It's like, dude, you're literally cucking yourself over the fact that, oh, we have money. It's like, I truly believe that your girl should only be talking good about you. Your girl should only ever be speaking like in positivities, to whether it's online or to her friends or even to your family.
Yes.
I think there should be no reason why. And if she ever has to speak negatively about you, she says that to you.
Yes.
You guys talk about it together. She's not talking to some guy friend. She's not talking to her girlfriends. She's not talking to some coworker. She's not doing these things. She only speaks good about you. And then if she needs to speak bad about you, she'll go ahead and say, hey, babe, we need to have a conversation because I feel X, Y, Y, and Z about, A, B, and C. And you're like, okay, hey, how can we compromise, come to a middle ground and, really make this into something? And you guys come to that conclusion. You as the man make that final decision on what it is that you're going to do. And that is how you have a healthy relationship. Listening to her, bro, is ridiculous. And we even did a video last week of some dumb chick being like, how to go from friends to dating. She's got to be interested in you or have a crush on you. Bro, what? You make a video about how to go from friends to dating, and then you're like, oh, but she's got to be interested in you and she's got to have a crush on you. Then shut the fuck up. Then shut up. So again, it's just one of those things where it's like, don't ever listen to women when they're giving advice, bro. Women are the worst at fucking giving advice at everything.
Yeah.
Like,
and I would say arguably that kind of content though is like, it's iffy just depending on like what your whole shtick is. You know what I mean? Like if her whole shtick is like spinning lies just for the idea of controversy and getting up there, rage bait, then it's like, that's not necessarily harmless. It's no more harmless if I got on the internet and I was like, yeah, you're fucking 5'6" or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, inherently that could be derived as negative, but like you're not 5'6", so like what does it matter? You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't really affect you, but then like I could get a bunch of views because it's like, damn, he roasts him all the time or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of like a, I don't know, example, but the idea is that's the first thing that popped to mind.
Yeah, but then you throw the moral argument in it, like, wow, are you really just going to throw your friend or people under the bus or even your partner under the bus like that for clicks and views? There's a moral argument that comes into it as well. It's like, wow, you're going to sit here and sell your soul and, the price that's being paid is your partner, your partner's dignity or your friend's dignity or whatever. And that's why I look at that kind of content as just like destructive.
Yeah, but then the question is also like, who determines your dignity? Is it yourself or the society?
I mean, your dignity, yeah, but your image, no. Your image obviously revolves around, and especially.
But then your image still is derived mainly from you. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like people, like I mean, we have fucking haters. That people think we're assholes, whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I mean, we are, but like the idea is still there. Like. The image that people put onto you is still not correct. So does it really matter?
Well, the thing is you kind of said something that was antithetical to it. You said that we are. So if we kind of own up to what it is that they're saying, like I always say, I'm short, and I poke at the fact that I'm short. So if anybody got in the comments and said I'm short, well, bro, okay. And
but even then,
if you're saying something that I don't agree to and that is not my character inherently, then yeah, that is slandering my image.
Yeah, but then again, it's like, there's people in the comments that probably say like we're gay and do shit with each other. It's like that also doesn't make it true. You know what I mean? I laugh at it. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. Like I'm okay. You think we're gay? That's fine. You know what I mean? Or like it's the same thing where it's like where people are saying. It could be whatever, right? Where it's like that guy's a fucking cuck. Like the people that I call cucks on here are cucks, but the idea is like they probably have seen the episode and moved on and accept their cuckness. You know what I mean? It's not, and even if they don't, it doesn't really affect their image. You know what I mean? It's not permanently planted on them as like a society, you know what I mean?
But it's the truth though. See, that's the difference in the example you're giving. It's like we're pointing out a truth that you're not willing to accept.
True.
The thing is they're pointing out a truth that's not the truth. They can say, oh yeah, Michael and Aaron, they have butt sex all the time. Well, that's not true. But if we read a scenario where you're talking about your girl getting fucked and nutted in by another guy, and we call you a cuck, well, the proof is in the pudding, my guy. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I look at it like, if it is the truth and you accept it, then understandable. But if it is a false narrative that you're trying to push, then it's like that's destructive, and it's like a slander on your image. And that's the only reason why I say it's like there's that moral argument to it of like, wow, you're going to throw them under the bus like that. I don't think it's throwing under the bus if it's true.
Yeah. and then there's also that argument because that's exactly what OnlyFans women go through, where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how many times we call them sluts, whores, whatever, right? They're still, right at this time, more richer than us and having more fun than us. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know what I mean? Like they have taken that and used it as their ultimate source of power, where it's like, you know, whether, well, I mean, it is the truth, but like, again, I guess the point is what people label you as doesn't necessarily define your success, regardless if it's true or not true, right?
Okay.
And so, it'd be the same thing if someone came up on here and was like, dude, I swear to God, they're two pink elephants. They, like, Aaron and Michael are pink elephants. They're just in disguise. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Yeah, I mean, and then if other people were like, dude, pink elephants suck, like, like, it probably would, if it ended up resulting in crashing our podcast and we went down to 0 subscribers, no listeners, no followers, right? That would be inherently negative, but it still wouldn't stop us. You know what I mean?
Well, see, if you're making a claim, especially nowadays, if you're making a claim, you got to be able to prove the claim. And I don't think anybody is going to just like believe you off the simple fact of you just saying something. Now, if you had some kind of like substantial evidence that you could, you know, piece together to kind of make it somewhat believable that we're pink elephants, you know, and that crashes the podcast, then I would understand that. But I would think you would have to have evidence. Like, if you're going to call us gay, all right, where's the substantial evidence that even alludes to that? Oh, I saw him touch his knee, man, and he did it in like 4 different episodes. Now, I can see how there would be some people who would believe that, you know, because there's substantial evidence, even though it's not like, it's not true, or it's not that much. Yeah, it's not going to be something that's going to stop us from, you know, doing the podcast. But again, it's an accusation that's made with then backed up proof of, like, see, in episode 304, in episode, you know, 506, in episode 629, he touched his knee. They're gay for each other. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I just kind of look at it like, if you're going to lie and say some things that aren't true to the internet to get likes and clicks, you're a shitty person, and you shouldn't be friends with that person ever. But the thing is, you know, if you're just throwing shade and it's true and the person kind of already knows about it, and you're able to throw an accusation and that accusation is verifiably proven, then it's like, bro, you can't be mad because I'm not slandering your image. I'm not saying anything that ain't true. You know, you just haven't come to terms with it. That's why when we call these guys cucks, you know, they get upset and they get mad about it, but it's like, bro, your scenario proves that you're a cuck.
Yeah.
Like, we're not slandering your image. We're just letting you see what you are. Yeah. You know? So I don't know. You guys let us know what you think about it in the comments though. But I know you had this video and you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, this is another scenario of, we had talked about my time in the military before.
Oh yeah, briefly we had to cut that episode kind of short.
Yeah, and this is another like video proving what I was talking about, how like the military really makes no fucking sense whatsoever, and there was just a lot of bullshit that, you know, a lot of military members had to deal with. So this guy really depicts it really well, like the civilian world versus like I would say military in general, right? Okay. His video depicts the Marine Corps, which is also the experience I've had, but I would say it's military wide.
Okay. All right, let's get on into it then.
You damn Jewel.
Yes, Staff Sergeant.
Go change the doggone oil of them Humvees that just came in. Good to go.
Oh, good to go, Staff Sergeant. We were just about to have the chow, so I was going to knock it out right after that.
Did I just fucking stutter, Jewel?
No, Staff Sergeant.
As a matter of fact, fuck your chow. You could change all the oil for all the Humvees. How about that, freaking damn Jewel? Good to go? Grown-ass man asking for some damn chow. Imagine that. Hey, Travis.
Yes, boss.
Hey, can you change the oil on those 2 cars that just came in, man?
Okay, yeah, good to go. I was just about to take lunch, so I was going to hit
that up when you got man. Take your lunch breaks, man. It'll be here when you get back.
All right, appreciate that, boss.
You got it, man. Hey, freaking damn Jewel.
Yes, Staff Sergeant?
Did you get those travel card charges squared away?
No, Staff Sergeant. The Lieutenant Colonel came on deck and I had to show him around real quick.
Huh. Well, did I tell you to show him around?
No, Staff Sergeant.
Then what the hell are you doing there, freaking damn Jewel?
All right, Staff Sergeant.
Hey, Travis.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to finish up those reports?
Oh no, I couldn't do that. See, the CEO came on the floor, and I had to show him around. So.
Oh wow! Thanks for taking the initiative on that, man.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
good job.
Yes, sir. Hey, good evening, Staff Sergeant. Since it's like 40 degrees outside, is it okay if the Marines wear their beanies?
Let's see. Were the Frozen Chosen wearing their beanies?
I don't think so.
Well, you might want to suck it the fuck up then, there, Jewel. Tired of you asking all these damn questions, there, Question McGee.
Would it be cool if we get the Marines some chow for tonight?
Where the hell do you think you're at right now, son?
29 Palms, Staff Sergeant.
Negative. You're in the freaking damn Marine Corps. Stop fucking acting like they're freaking damn Jewel.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have an extra jacket or something?
Yes, certainly, buddy. Here you go.
Thank you so much. You happen to have any food, man?
Of course, buddy. Here you go. Take this.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Also, here's some change, man. I hope you have a better night, brother. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
36,000.
Hey, freaking damn Jewel.
Yeah, so the idea
Be
there,
homeless today. Get your 36K.
the idea is, again, like I stated in a previous episode we did, is the amount of bullshit you deal with inherently is a reflection of how well people like you, as well as how big of an ego the people above you have, right? Like we saw in that scenario with the mechanics, is like, hey, you know, like, boss, I'm due for my lunch break, you know, and there are people out there that, like, they get their lunch break taken because some boss is a fucking fool, and they're like, just skip your lunch and then, or take a quick lunch or whatever, right? Or split your lunch or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it is inherently highly likelier that you will not get an amenity if you offend your higher up in the Marine Corps or in the military in general, right? Like you saw there where it's like, hey, you know, like couple different Humvees came in, got to change the oil. Yeah, I'll do it right after lunch. And he's like, lunch? Did I tell you to take fucking lunch? And it's like, God damn it, dude. There we go again. And it's something that's so minuscule, so minor, so meticulous that you think this shouldn't be a problem. But then it becomes an even bigger headache solely because you affected someone's ego in a way that they did not like, right? And what will happen is they will take that instance, the higher up will take that instance and spin it as you are lazy, you don't want to work, you're not a go-getter, you don't have initiative. All because you said, hey, I just wanted to eat first before I fucking work for hours changing oil over and over and over again on all these different vehicles, right? And it's the same thing with all the other scenarios where solely because you offended your higher up with a basic, a very simple scenario or like request or whatever, your life is then 10 times harder because someone that's not going to stay and do the work with you now has deemed it you need to work harder, right? In like the ending scenario where it's like, hey, it may have gone over people's heads because not too many people are familiar with Marine Corps history, but the idea is like, imagine you go to your boss, right? And you're like for you instance, Rig 4, right? You say you go to your boss. Does it sometimes get like cold in your office or whatever?
You can.
It can,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Imagine one, you then were like, dude, it's kind of cold. You were like, wait, I can't wear a beanie without asking. You then go to another grown man, ask them like, hey, can I put on my beanie that was issued to me? Like when I first applied to the job, they gave me like a company beanie.
Okay.
Can I put that on? And they're like,
beanie? The fuck you want to put a beanie on for?
Actually, back when the company was first founded, you know, they worked outside and they didn't have any fucking beanies. So why the fuck do you think you should wear one?
That's
and it's
crazy.
Like, what? And in this scenario, it's like, dude, we're not in the Frozen Chosen, which, right, granted, if you look it up, that's one of the, I don't remember now. It's been a while.
Oh, so that's why he said Frozen Chosen.
Yeah, it's a battle that the Marine Corps fucking had to deal with where it was very, very cold. You know, Marines did amazing things, yada, yada, yada. They killed a lot of people, that kind of stuff, right? If you look up Marine Corps history, there's a lot of shit where you're like, damn, they were outnumbered how many and they still fucked people up? That's cool. But the point is, it was very fucking cold. This was before they had issued beanies, you know what I mean? So they were like, yeah, did those Marines have beanies? No, so you don't get to wear one. It's not even as cold as it is there. And it's like, brother, we're not there. It's not that time period, and they weren't issued that shit. Who gives a fuck? You know what I
Especially
mean?
if it's issued to you. It's like, bro, why issue it to me then?
What would you say to your boss if he was like, hey, you can't wear that beanie in here?
Dude, I'd fucking walk away and wear it anyway. Like, the fuck, bro? My ears are freezing, man.
Yeah.
Like, I would take the consequences after that. Like,
Yeah.
bro, I'm not about to sit here and freeze for nobody.
I
man.
want to hear what the comment section would say if you were posed with the idea of like, hey, I'm wearing my beanie to work, whatever. It's cold as fuck. Or like, I know a lot of people work in like walk-in freezers, stuff like that. If you were like, yeah, dude, like, it's required that I wear enough warming layers in order to work in here so I don't die in this walk-in freezer. And you had a boss that was like, yeah, well, I didn't get to wear beanies or gloves or jackets when I first started working here, so you don't get to wear it. I want to know in the comment section how you would handle that situation.
Yeah, 100%. Let us know, because that's insanity to me.
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
And then in the video, he's like, can I at least get some food? He's like, in his response, the higher-up's response is like, do you know where you're at? You're in the Marine Corps. As if that's some sort of answer. Or like some sort of like, Marines don't need to eat. Motherfucker, I was starving in the Marine Corps, right? I went into the Marine Corps at 117, and I got out, I think, 145, something like that. You know what I mean? So, because I was just starving the whole time. Because eating food was deemed as a weak quality, and you were looked at as a poor Marine, or like not poor, but like a insufficient Marine if you decided to eat as often as they allotted you to, or if you went to go seek medical attention for getting injuries or mental health or whatever the fuck. You know?
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
I remember, there was a lot of people. There was a girl that said that she had hurt her ankle or whatever, and they wouldn't let her go see the med.
Yeah.
And then it got worse.
And then another, I'm putting my boy on blast, but another scenario is I had a buddy of mine, and this is a very personal story, but it is what it is, because the idea is still, it needs to be said, so there's awareness to look out for your fellow, for anyone that you know in the Marine Corps, right? They don't always talk about it because it's kind of squandered and like put onto them that they shouldn't be talking about this stuff. But the idea is, a buddy of mine that was a roommate of mine for a while, I found him attempting to unalive himself in his closet, right? I saved his life after that, and well, I won't say I saved his life, but whatever, right? You know, I'm gonna, just to not like put it out there as like a fucking me trying to take credit for anything. The idea is, he didn't unalive himself. He had to be watched by higher ups on 24 hours just in case they thought he might do it again, right? Valid. They hated him that much for causing that watch to happen. Mind you, this is a watch to make sure someone doesn't unalive themselves. They hated him for causing that so much that they put him on what's called a working party, where it's like, aside from your normal job, right? So your normal job is supervisory, right? Aside from that, imagine they're like, yeah, go paint the curbs in the front parking lot and sweep the parking lot and clean all the windows in my office and the office around the buildings and any site that you go on to where you have to like do what you got to do. You also need to fill sandbags in case it rains over there, and put sandbags out for them and paint their curbs. And it's essentially, working parties are just extra work for no fucking reason, right? Granted, in other scenarios in the civilian world, they have people for it, right?
Yeah.
Like janitors, mechanics, maintenance, whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
The Marine Corps does not. So when you hate someone, you put your Marines on that, right? So cleaning toilets, scrubbing floors, scrubbing the walls, painting the walls, cleaning, someone's personal toilet, cleaning their windows, dusting blinds, mopping the parking lot while it's raining, sweeping sand.
I can see them fucking doing that.
No, this is all.
Here's a mop. Go mop outside while it's
I'm
raining.
not exaggerating. That's exactly what they'll do, right? So they put him on all those kind of working parties. He was on a working party where he had to paint rocks, Go fucking figure, right?
Wow.
One of the rocks that he was moving ended up smashing his fucking hand, right? So he lost a lot of the ligaments in his hand. He could no longer use the hand. So they're like, yeah, we got to separate you because you can't shoot anymore. You're now unfit to be a Marine. We got to separate you. Your career's cut short, right?
Wow.
They then hated him for that because he couldn't use his hand. So they made him take all of the furniture out of his room so that way he could clean every nook, cranny, and corner to their liking and then put all that stuff back. And they had him do that weekly.
Damn.
With a fucked up hand. And they wonder why people don't want to stay in the Marine Corps. And it's like, dude, the idea here is like, if you got someone that's in the Marine Corps and if they're not saying it's fucking hunky-dory, the best thing ever, and telling you every detail about it, they're probably going through some shit and you need to check on them. Because I witnessed this kind of stuff, and, you know, I was 19, 20 at the time. I was 20 at the time, and I was like, well, there's not shit I can do because if I try to stick up for him, I'm going to be in the same boat.
Yeah,
so,
you'll be like, oh, since you want to stick up for him so bad, why don't you join him?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, wow, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon where, even for myself, dude, I had to fucking... one day I pissed off my NCOs once, and I had to crawl through rocks for about an hour or so just because someone was pissed at me. You know what I mean? It's
man.
Like that was my day that I signed up for, or that was the life I signed up for, and I did that twice. I signed up for 2 contracts, like
oh damn.
So it's like granted on the other side of that, I was. When I was on my second contract, I was on the other side of people crawling through rocks. But, it's just one of those things where if you're thinking about joining the Marine Corps or the military in general, do not. It's not worth it. You'll get very good character development out of it, but you'll lose a lot of your sanity.
Now, would you recommend them go into maybe other branches?
No.
No, they're kind of more of the same?
They're pretty, I would say arguably less, because the Marine Corps focuses on being physically fit and physically the best. The other branches will fuck with you intellectually because they don't allow for physical hazing or whatever you want to call it. I won't say hazing because whatever. But the Navy, I've had a lot of people that I talk to where they're like, yeah, dude, my daughter was just sexually assaulted or something like that. They just moved her fucking duty stations, or this fucking. Actually, I just saw a video the other day of this Army soldier that was sexually assaulted by a civilian contractor. He shared his story after 6 years after it happened.
Wow.
So, again, the Army's not safe. The Navy's not safe. The Air Force, maybe, I don't know. You don't really hear too many of them complain, but they get steak and lobster when they're in boot camp. So it's like, maybe it is worth it. But I would assume it's more political there, where
100%.
There's a little bit more nuance to it of like, hey, you're ostracized instead of like hazed. You know what I mean, or something like that. Same thing, Coast East, Space Guard, Space Force. I assume it's all the same as a blanket, right? And that's not necessarily because the branch itself. It's because humans are humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you give somebody too much power, they're gonna abuse it.
You get diplomatic immunity when you're in the military as well. So it's like that also contributes to like people just getting away with fuck all. You know?
Wow.
What I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that why he had to wait 6 years to kind of come out and talk about it?
No, that one was more of just a bravery thing. A lot of people understand that, like, especially when you're in, you have to be very careful of what you share and disclose.
Okay.
As well as, especially as a male that gets sexually assaulted, right? I've known males that get sexually assaulted, right? They've confided into me. Mm-hmm. It's not something that, especially with, you think you get picked on for like, hey, I want to go seek mental help in the, you think you get picked on then? I could only imagine what you would go through if you're like, hey, dude, like someone like actually like diddled me or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's not something that I would say is common or easy to come come out with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah,
why.
because I mean, you know, as a man, you can't sit there and be like, "He jerked me off, Staff Sergeant. I didn't like that." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it sounds ridiculous, even though to the person it's not.
Yeah.
They're like, "Bro, no, he fucking jerked my dick like that."
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. So, and I get it, man. I 100% get it. Now, I was glad that you were able to kind of talk more about it because I know that was something we wanted to come back to.
Yeah.
And so when you sent me this, I was like, "Oh, good. This is a good reason for him to kind of come back to what he was talking about later on." But that's going to be today's episode, man. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. We talked about a metric fuck ton of shit.
Yes.
So again, you know, just kind of take the episode slow and let us know what you thought about everything down in the comments. I didn't really get to announcements, but it's cool. We'll do it at the end. So patreon.com/Am I the Asshole podcast. Get an exclusive episode every single month, as well as the free episode every single month. Yeah, man, start your free trial over there. And then it's $3 a month after that. Get down there, support us that way. Audio listeners, thank you guys so much for all the support, man. You guys are absolutely killing it, and I appreciate you guys so much for all the support you've been showing. Keep downloading the episodes as well as rating us 5 stars on your preferred platform. If you want to help out even more, go ahead and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, as well as subscribing on YouTube. If you guys want to watch the Sunday episodes, this episode an entire week before, you can join like these lovely people did for today and, you know, see the episode a week before and follow us on Instagram. We do that on Instagram. I will try to see if we can do it on other platforms and stuff like that, maybe multi-stream it and stuff. But for right now, it's just Instagram. And we do appreciate you guys so very much for all being here, watching the episodes, everybody who came in live, all that good stuff. So yeah, we love you guys. We appreciate you so much. Follow our boy over here at Michael the Asshole on Instagram as well as TikTok. All the links are down in the description for that. And yeah.
Thank you guys for coming in. Again, you guys are allowed to interact in the chat once you join in on the live stream. You know what I mean? There are some people just coming in, showing support, saying like you guys are awesome, you know, yada yada, that kind of stuff. But if also you guys have like comments, whatever the case may be, we will see and interact with that kind of stuff. Like I have the screen over to my left, and then the Rick Force got it on his side as well. So like, you know, as we're talking, we're also checking that. So, you know, we did this so that way, one, you guys can see it a week earlier, as well as get a little bit of interaction with us as well. You know what I mean? Getting that live aspect of it, you know. So if you are popping in, seeing us, stuff like that, you know, we're not ignoring you. There may be a little bit of a delay, but at the same time, we still will get to you at some point. You just gotta, you know, say something other than hi, or like you're awesome, or, you know, whatever the case may be.
We appreciate it though that you guys come in and
yeah.
hang out and then, you know, dip out for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, we're going to be out of here. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. He'll be back on Sunday. And yeah, man, we love you guys. We'll see you all later. Peace.